Hello, everybody, and welcome to our ever so slightly delayed episode of Stat Check. This is episode 31. Ravenwinging it, the search for more words in the title. You can thank Cliff for the extreme number of words in the title. This is Ravenwinging it. Colon in the title. Come on, man. The Arks of Omen meta so far. I don't know, man. I don't know what we're going for here. The splash screen says Ravenwinging it. That's what I'm calling it. I refuse to acknowledge anything else. Cliff, you can't name episodes anymore. I am Innes. I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by Anthony and Nathan, and also by recurring, frequently, almost always here now, Jeremy.
Hey, guys.
Fucking ridiculous.
Hey, we made it past 15 seconds.
Yeah, all I had to do is make it 30 seconds in. I kept an eye on it.
So we do have. Oh, do we? I don't know.
I was going to say thank you for being with us this week as we devolve into more of our usual crap and also hopefully some great content to talk about the Warhammers. Nathan, do you want to talk about that stuff?
Do we want to do the business portion real quick? So, thank you.
It's more
thank you, everyone. We hit 1,000 people subscribed to our YouTube channel. So we are now a monetized YouTube channel, which means you can super chat and we'll have ads occasionally that will pay us money, like 21 cents a month. But we purposefully set our ads so that they are skippable and they will be banners and like the least intrusive ads possible. And then for super chats, what we're going to do is that you will basically have your question answered no matter what. If you super
unless
chat,
it's bad.
We might democratically, all of us together, decide a question does not deserve to be answered. I don't know, but
or maybe I'll just DM you an answer.
Yeah, I'm talking like we're going to answer every reasonable question. Let's go with that before we pigeonhole ourselves into answering dumb stuff.
Sure.
You'll at least get a visual reaction from us. That's guaranteed.
we will answer a question in charades if your question is not good enough.
I'm not committing to that. I'm sorry. You can answer questions in charades. I will. Anthony will get closer to the camera and I'll look away.
That's a version of answering in charades. I'm going to say.
That is kind of true. So yeah, thank you everybody. We put a call to action last episode to help us get over the push to 1,000, and you guys responded fantastically. What we should also say is we launched a new show this week, which we'll talk about very briefly, in X&1, which is a show that is being run by the most beautiful man in 40K, Cliff, and also Tim Penny, who's previously of the Florida Man 40K podcast, who is a wonderful player based down in Florida, and they have been getting on to talk about 40K, Dad Hammer, playing while under limited time pressure. Anthony, you were on the show this week. Do you want to give it a brief 10-second introduction?
Yeah, if you expect to go to an event and not win it, you should be listening to that show. If you want to go there to an event and fuck 5 people up and maybe fumble a single game because you had a beer too many the night before or something went a little astray on you, or maybe you don't have the time to play 10 games in a week, but you still want to smash some folks and get real good at this game, that's your shit. Go check out X&1.
Yeah, so that is the... Oh, please, Nathan.
Has some excellent just advice for like day-to-day living as well if you have a partner who doesn't play 40K, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah. Tim also teaches you how to travel. That part's cool.
Yep.
So that show will be, I think it's roughly every 2 weeks. It might be pushing to every 3 weeks, just depending on the schedules. Cliff and Tim are both busy men, as kind of required by being on that show, being dads, being, business owners and all this sort of thing that Cliff and Tim both do an incredible degree of between them. That show will be on our network, the same as Into the Matrix, which is also going to be going live on the podcast feeds now as of this week, I think. Jeremy will know more about that. Jeremy's nodding. That means that we are officially up to 3 full shows on the network, guys. We're actually going to call it network. I've been trying to call it Empire Check, but nobody's rolling with me on that one. I think Tim liked it, but nobody's rolling with me on calling
it's the stat check work.
I think I quite literally gave it a thumbs up when you said Empire Check.
Perfect. Empire Check, Stat Check Empire, the Stat Check Network, whatever you want to call it, guys. We're not calling it anything other than Stat Check. That is all. We are the main show. We are Stat Check, and then the other guys are Into the Matrix and X&1, and we're super, super happy to have them on board now. It means there's now 7 people creating content directly on this network. We may have some more coming up as well. So we will be hopefully rolling into that. Donald, yes, that is on the new channel. You should be able to see that in the past broadcast section just now, and then it
It's
will.
the lives.
And then it will be in the live section on that, or you can also find it on like most podcast feeds, so Spotify, anything like that. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual places. So yeah, we're super proud of everybody who's making extra content with us. So that's Typhus, Jeremy, who's not technically part of the main show, but you are now basically, and also Cliff and Tim, who are all now part of the show. And we're super proud of everybody. We're super thankful for everybody for helping us hit 1,000 subscribers. I think that XM1 was a big supporter of that. We got a bunch of new influx from that, which was super cool to see. And yeah, we're super thankful for all of you. Obviously, we are now working with Goonhammer a lot more closely. It's been insane over the past. This is what, April? It's been 10 months of Stat Check now.
No, July.
July.
I mean, there's a message in our Discord from April, so it must have been going for longer than that.
Who knows?
Anyway, we've been going for a while, at least 8 months. So yeah, July makes sense. I'm just going to go with, I don't know what time is anymore, but we've been doing this for 32 episodes, including our Christmas episode. That is about 8 months. It's been an incredible journey coming with you guys on all of this, and thank you to our community and also to everybody on the network. It is greatly appreciated from all of you. Nathan, that's not how people do love hearts anymore. No, it's this now. That's how the Gen Z are doing
What?
it.
That seems
No.
real dangerous. Depending on that's a small finger error away.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem safe in a large
That's
city.
not
Just
how
gonna
the
put it
kids are
out
doing
there.
it these days, guys. You guys need to get with the program. If we're going to be launching YouTube Shorts and TikTok stuff, you need to be getting your love hearts right.
Only-
It's very
Ennis,
We'll
you're
let
the
the
only
Gen
one
Zer
doing
take care
them.
of that.
No, it confuses and scares me as well. I just wanted to make fun of Nathan.
Good luck, Zima boy.
Man, I'm too old to get made fun of for making little hearts on screen.
It feels better doing it. This looks awful on camera, but yeah, it looks good to me from my perspective. So yeah, thank you everybody. We're actually going to go into the proper show now. I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I started being soppy, and now I'm just like, pain.
Why don't we can talk about our weeks then? Innes, why don't you talk to us about your weekend?
I actually didn't play 40K this weekend. It was great to I mean, I was whinging about it on Twitter immediately. Like, I wish I could just play an event every weekend. But my sister's home because she's moving to London. So she came down. She stayed for the weekend. We went for a nice dinner. And then we went and did axe throwing, which was super cool. It turns out I'm quite good at throwing axes. I'm not good at any other sporting activity, but launched the sharp thing at the target. Pretty good.
You're quite large, so that makes sense.
It's really easy to throw the thing with a lot of force when you have a lot of force. So that was super cool. Didn't get much work in. I've built a bunch of stuff. Sort of just jamming together some Iron Hand stuff, considering if I want to branch out into Dark Angels or if I just don't hate myself enough to buy 30 Terminators and 20 bikes like 3 months before the game ends. So it's like,
that, right?
I don't know. Yeah, but it's like, it's not going to be for WTC. I'm probably going to play Iron Hands at Home Nations. So
we got a nice balance patch coming in like March, April. We got time.
I know, but it's so many. The bikes are so expensive. Why are they like 30 quid per 3? I don't like that. It's too much.
They're much cheaper in resin.
But we don't advocate for that on the main show, guys. If you want to hear more about such things as resin, you can check out our Discord, which you can find access to at patreon.com/statcheck, where there is a wonderful resin-based community. So yeah, that's been my week. I did not do much 40K related. Obviously, I've been doing a bunch of coaching stuff, which has been super cool. But nothing like, I put some models on the table last Wednesday, which was cool. I tried a really, really sketch Black Legion list. It was really, really sketch, and I don't recommend anybody play Black Legion. But it was in my head, and I had to try it at least once. And I did that, and it struggled into Death Guard, and I was like, no. We're good. What about, let's do Jeremy next.
I was at the Starter Snotling Major this past weekend. Took my Dark Angels that I'd been iterating on, and as Anthony can attest to, fumbling about with the last 40 points to the list for 2 weeks. Finalized the list, went off, and went 5-1. I dropped 1 game to Tau and finished 6th overall, but was not the best Dark Angels player because I missed it by 15 points.
It's because there were like 40 of you, right?
So going at the end of round 4, there were 8 undefeated, and 3 of them were Dark Angels. All 3 of them lost round 5.
Oh,
Seems
Gatekeeper,
reasonable.
play Iron Hands, they're better. Probably.
There were 2 Iron Hands players that weekend, and the top finishing one finished in 11th place. So no.
Yeah, that's because Francois decided to troll through the lower bracket and lose on win path. It's not the same thing. Francois scored like the highest battle points of anybody at that tournament.
Second
poor
highest, but
people.
yes.
Those poor people in the 1-in-1 bracket.
Yeah.
Imagine being in the 1-1 bracket, you're playing Francois' Iron Hand on an open board.
I mean, not for nothing. Imagine being in the 0-1 bracket and playing my creations of Pylon GW. It's not much better.
Friend of the show, Franklin, went he went from TJ into Francois.
Oh yeah,
Round 2 and 3. It was that moment of like he walked up to the table, saw Francois, and went, "Oh no."
It's like that
Not
poor guy
again.
that played Anthony and then me back to back in Coventry.
Yeah, that was an experience for Mr. Chaos Knights and Flamers.
But yeah, it was Francois ran into a brick wall of Terminators and lost by 3 points.
Skill difference.
Iron Hands
Look,
just
if you
getting
can't-
booed by Benway in the chat, dude. Just boo Iron Hands.
See, the problem with Francois is he was too busy already thinking like a World Eaters player and didn't realize you can just shoot things and tried to like be smart about it. Just shoot them, bro. It's fine. They'll go away.
He's gonna play World Eaters exactly once, realize he gets 0 options in a game, and then go and play something else.
You get the option of what you put on the board. That counts as an option, right?
I foresee a future. It's coming to me now, where a lot of top players pick them up because the secondaries are really good, and then they get move blocked exactly once, and then they're like, "Fuck this shit," and they should fucking thin the army.
I want to play against them with GSC so bad, bro.
It's so terrible, man.
Man.
You don't have screens, like all the like high level player shit that everyone talks about really enjoying. That isn't me. Like you don't do in World Eaters just like at all.
I just want to see the light die in someone's eyes when they try to go for the turn 1 charge into GSC and they're like, oh, wait.
It's
Yeah,
9
that's-
inches. Have fun.
Is it?
Try it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't pregame move it all backwards.
Yeah, or you didn't deploy behind the blips or remove the fake blips.
Yeah, exactly. Or redeploy them. Like, there's a million options here.
Yeah.
You did.
Anyways, I do want to point out we just got our first super chat, and we are going to answer these questions at the start of the question and answer because we do want to put everything together. But I do want to do a shout out. It is Martin, I believe.
Martin, yep.
I always struggle to pronounce his
It's
name
Marigold
correctly.
Victory Bell is the easiest way to pronounce it.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
He will get that reference and he will not mind. It's okay. I promise I'm not just bullying a foreigner. I am a little bit doing that.
We
but
do
it's also
appreciate the
different.
support,
Yeah.
Thank you very
and
much.
we will make sure to answer that question.
So
I'm
yeah,
writing
what
it
we
down
will be
now.
doing, I will very briefly cover this before we jump on. What we'll be doing now is we'll be doing at the end of the main show, we'll do a brief super chats questions. Then we're going to take a short break again because I have a freer schedule. I can do breaks again. So we're going to add a 10-minute break back into the show. And then we're going to come back. We'll do the Discord questions. Then we'll do the rest of the super chat questions. And then we'll do the rest of the general chat questions is what we're going to be doing now.
Cool.
Right.
Nathan.
Congratulations on your placing at the Sutter Snotling Major. How was your weekend, Nathan?
I also didn't play any 40k this weekend. I did paint though. Been painting Kasserkin and urban camo schemes by hand, which is like slowly breaking my brain. Also, I learned I'm very shaky when trying to paint like little paint lines on Kasserkin models, so that was bizarre. Other than that, I am starting to play 40k now again, practicing for Adepticon to see if I get a singles ticket. And then playing guard in a Crusade League, which is always funny. Although last weekend it was funnier because a Drukhari player did like 30 mortal wounds across 3 combat phases with the Succubus who causes mortal wounds on 6s by just rolling only 6s. 15 6s across 3 combat phases was a lot of 6s.
It's too many. It's too many 6s. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't.
lot.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying painting. I've also been finishing up the Harlequins army, so eventually I'll be playing that again. Although I don't know if I'm going to be playing that when guards start coming into the meta. That seems like a bad plan for everyone involved. So it's just going to be guard and tanks and sentinels and things for the foreseeable future. I know. I don't care. Anthony, you hate all the armies I play except Tyranids. It's just
I
okay.
love Harlequins.
Oh.
And Drukhari, what are we doing right now?
It's true. Actually, most of the armies are just armies that Anthony plays and enjoys. It's just not guard.
Why?
I don't know. Well, Anthony, why don't you just tell us about your weekend instead? Let us know.
My weekend was good. I got beaten to the ground 3 games of the 4 that I played on the Saturday to try and take Jim and find an army that fit him. We played the first game, which was GK, and man, that army really needs a lot of spells to go off on a 7 without any assistance to play.
Yeah.
We got through the first game, and he like 3d6 with a rerolled amp, and then failed it. And I was like,
Oh, no.
"We're just gonna say that went off because you spent 2 CP on it." Because like, I don't know what else to do.
That was my experience playing GK, was that the only way you could make that army fun was Dread Knights will kill things, don't cast powers.
Even
It's
with
like
the Dread Knights,
ritual. All right, man, the rest are here just for fun.
Ritual has to go off on a 6. Like the Dread Knights really need amp to kill certain profiles.
Yep.
It was like I could never play that army.
No, it's real stressful.
So we played it twice. He played it once into my Emperor's Children. I'll be sad about that later in the show. And we played a second game where I got to play World Eaters, and that was very exciting if you're the World Eaters. Then we tried him on Mr. Hackett's Solar Watch, and he had a much better time on the army that just is like, I'm going to do this now, without any spells having to happen, with just simply the application of command points. As it turns out, when you charge a Warden Squad, nice 10-man, with Fight Last on it, with 5 Death Company with hammers, 1 Chainsword, 4 hammers, and 8 Sanguinary Guard, you kill 5, and then the 5 that are left kill everybody else.
Yep.
And the rest of your army on the following turn. It was real sad. So my Blood Angels went into not just like an army case, they went into like a foot locker, like a work box.
Just push under a bed.
And like put behind all the stuff in my. You guys have all been in my house except Nathan at this point. It went like behind my computer, where I was like, "Good night, boys, for another edition, perhaps." And then I played his GK into the Solar Watch, and I just got like Bubba fucked again. And we were like, "All right, that's what you're playing for all is dust." So
It's a valid strategy. No,
And I am currently putting that army together for him.
thanks, Jerry.
I will say I enjoyed leaf blowing Custodes off the board. It was really good fun, but that list is great.
Yeah, that list is a lot better when you don't fuck with it too.
Yeah, that too. Not that would have helped him not lose all of his stuff, but
I mean, it depends.
I don't know, when you lose Trajan to Devastator Thunderhammers, like there ain't no saving it.
I don't know what the fuck happened to him. But I don't really know how he ended up in that situation, really. But like, all right, bro, whatever.
Anyway, let's bounce forward. Just roll good with GK, easy GK win. Absolutely, yeah. That's the problem with GK, is that sometimes they'll just scam their way out of a game they absolutely shouldn't by hitting all of those powers. It's like, yeah. I guess you just did hit teleport and 4-up and all of your purifying rituals to score 5 VP, and also your +1 to wound and +1 damage on me now. I guess I just die. Cool.
And your Libby just randomly shit out 14 mortals. I guess that's cool.
Yeah, and sometimes you just cheat and you take 6s to wound do mortals with all your guns as well, and that makes it a lot easier too.
Oh, poor Logan.
Sometimes you just make all of your like 50% chance die rolls. It's okay.
Sometimes you just fail all your 3-ups. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So I guess we can talk about stats then. We had a lot more Arks of Omen events this last week.
You guys have accepted the title here of meta review, so me and Anthony are going to shut up for a bit and let you guys talk stats, and it's going to be great.
I'm going to talk this week's numbers, and then we'll go over the totality of 2 weeks of numbers, because we moved over to a much smaller spreadsheet for just 2023, which is quite nice. It makes not as many crashes happen. Over the weekend, I'm going to skip some of the Marine chapters that I don't think are important, but Genestealer Cult was the #1 performing faction of the weekend at a 68.1% win rate and a 3.9 over rep, which is hilarious, with 2 GT wins, 3 top 4s, and 6 top 10s. So all hail our new underground overlords.
That's twice now, isn't it?
Called it.
It's definitely happening. Yeah, we're about to have
players,
a real.
Stop cheating. Put infiltrators in your lists, please. I don't understand why they're still not doing this.
On some layouts, that's not enough.
But it gives you a chance.
And because Space Marines are now doing well with some of their sub factions, like to such a degree that it's like carved them out a niche in the top 5. Dark Angels were second. They had 4% of the meta, so actually almost twice as much of the meta representation as Gene Stealer Cult. Had a 62.5% win rate. They won a GT. They top 4'd twice, and they top 10'd 6 times with an overrep of 1.54, which is okay. Just
They're a
okay.
pretty significant portion of the meta. Overrep is pretty funny for that.
Yeah, so they're
Everybody's
1.5
playing them.
is
They're also winning more than that. That's definitely fine.
they're only 4%, but it is a
Oh,
lot. It's
okay.
a lot.
I thought you said 14%, and I was
No,
like,
it's 4%.
1 in 25
If
people.
it was
It's quite a lot.
14%, we'd have a very different conversations. That's Custodes' last LVO numbers when they buffed them after releasing them for some reason. Then we have like some random nonsense. I need to reorganize this apparently. 1 second.
Demons.
It's Chaos Demons, but there were 30 Chaos Demons players, which is 8 more than there were Dark Angels players.
There better have been 60 Skull Cannons.
They had a 57.8% win rate and a 2.82 overrep, which is also not a great meta situation to be in, especially for a faction that has a decently sized player base rather than Gene Stealer Cult, who has a player base constructed basically of a dozen-ish people.
7 people and some people who are pretending. Yeah.
Yep. Next is Iron Hands, because we didn't have enough Space Marines in our top 5 yet. They are going to be we're going to skip Death Watch because there's only one player. They had a 57.7% win rate and a 1.78 overrep. I think.
real quick.
Hmm?
What was the win rate of Master Artisan's Whirlwind of Rage?
I'll give that to you in a second.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'll
Continue on, and I will.
I'm going to
grab that for
continue
you.
to the next couple of
The
things.
Iron Hands win rate's not always representative, is
So
it?
Space Wolves had 9 more players in Death Watch, so I'll consider them the top 5 fifth best faction with a 56.6% win rate and a 1.69 overrep.
So it was only 5 players,
Uh-oh.
but it was a 71.4% win rate.
Uh-oh.
Regular Iron Hands were 11 players, and they were a 46% win rate.
Yeah.
So you
Boys.
can kind of see what's happening here.
Boys,
hiding.
stop
Carry.
playing Iron Hands.
They're
Start
hiding
playing
what
Master
they're
Artist,
doing.
and even Master Artist in Stealthy. There was one guy, and he went 4-1.
Man, it makes me feel like there's some kind of build there. A
It's
build
almost
that's
more
really
rerolls,
good.
but you're already getting tons of rerolls. Is real good.
Mm. And then we have our first
100%
Nons.
Mods are fine.
our second non-Space Marines faction, other than, third. Custodes are 9.6% of the meta. So we're getting back up there for Custodes meta representation.
What?
In case people were wondering, with a 54.9% win rate, they won a GT, 2 top 4s, 5 top 10s. But the Custodes player base apparently is not very good because their overrep is only 0.65, which means there are some very good Custodes
War
players.
Warden's the last unit that hadn't been good from like that book. Like Venatari have been good, Sagittarium have been good, Bikes have been I guess Agamatis are like the only one left now. Everything else has been pretty good.
Aquilons.
Yeah, Aquilons are also kind of crap.
Aquilons were good in the 8th book though, because you used them all the time. So, like, I'm just talking like for the entire history of the Codex.
Oh, yeah.
Agamatis are now the only thing. So everybody was just sitting like, I'm a Custodes player. I own and have named 30 Wardens. Like,
Yeah,
they've got
Stutter
them,
Snotling.
so they were all just jamming them.
Yeah, Stutter Snotling very much was Stowed or Snotling. Thank you, Benway, for that one. They were 15 Custodes players out of 128 players.
Jesus.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I was
those are some
real
Marine
happy
numbers.
when I took the Reliquary of the Repentant, that thing that gives you a 5-up invuln when you're within 3 inches of him.
Wisdom.
I played one Custodes player, and I made him extremely sad when he realized how it worked.
Yeah.
And then
Pull casualties from next to that guy. It's fine.
Yeah, except when he
Sometimes.
is next to 5 of them.
Details.
yeah. Guard are the next faction, and then we'll cover the bottom 5. So Guard have started to bounce back 6.3% of the meta, a 54.6% win rate over the weekend, and 6 top 10s. since we only track overrep in top fours, they technically had a 0, but they're starting to bounce back from kind of like an uneven start to Arks. I mean, last week's episode was titled because Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard players were kind of having a rough go of the book so far, but it seems like people are kind of starting to get the memo of you should use mortars and you should play born soldiers and things.
Well, Kazarkin immediately sold out on dropping on the web store.
Wardens have been just gone everywhere, by the way, for a while. Like
You can't get Landspeeder Vengeance to save your life. I know I looked. It's a weird time to be the bad units of 8th edition, isn't it?
Oh, that thing was so bad in 8th.
But when it was D6 shots instead of D3 plus 3.
And if you overheated, it just died.
And it took
Roll a
heavy,
single one.
heavy penalty.
Wasn't it?
Which meant
The
it
razor
roll
back.
1s and 2s if it moved.
Yeah, or 3s if you're shooting at a flyer, or 6s if you're shooting at a Latok flyer.
Fuck yeah.
Oh man, I love it. All right,
By the
I
way,
love
Born
Warhammer.
Soldiers had a 55% win rate.
Okay, so that's better.
Reasonable.
I mean, it's where they're averaged out to be. What's actually winning more then?
Winning more is
I think FLG did that a bit early.
everything else is kind of smaller. Armored Superiority Swift as the Wind is doing slightly better, but it was only 3 players. And then
So that's the OPSEC
Armored
and
Superiority
bonus-
Elite
or the
Sharpshooters.
Counters
was
lots
it?
of models on your vehicles, can do the order for OPSEC and faster vehicles and like indoors.
Yeah, you
right?
always have the
Yeah.
OPSEC order, but you now count as multiple models.
That's what
That-
Zach's been playing, right? Zach,
Right.
Zach of the surname.
Yeah.
Zach of the previously, he got best in faction Astra Militarum last season, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's playing like 7 Russes and 15 Rough Riders.
Yeah, he's playing like I'm gonna just overwhelm you with armored OBSEC and Rough Riders that are actually quite good in combat. So at the bottom, we have a Space Marine faction because there's always got to be one all the way at the bottom.
You suck,
Oh.
Imperial Fists.
And poor Imperial Fists. They only had
Aw,
4.
Again, solid
they
guess.
they only had 4 players, so they made up less than 1% of the meta, but they have an 18.4% win rate.
Imperial Fist is the you can say Devastator Doctrine, but why would you faction?
I
I
like that
wouldn't-
GW. I like that GW ruined the game with free war gear so that army could still suck terribly. Thanks, Games Workshop.
So
Hey,
I
man,
gotta
that
make
plus
that.
one damage against buildings was totally needed.
Yeah. All those ruins that people
Maybe
are
they're a
running.
solid counter to the Iron Hands meta where they're running all these vehicles. You can get plus 1 damage against them with all of the no
Fuck
guns
you,
you run that
man.
are appropriately strength.
And then the second worst faction, also a Space Marine faction, but much spikier. Chaos Space Marines are the second worst faction currently, with 27 players making up 5% of the meta. They do have twice the win rate.
I'm sorry,
Imperial
20,
Fists.
27
27 players
for Chaos
And
Space Marines?
and a 36.4% win rate.
My boys,
It's not-
everybody who played that
not
faction
good.
has abandoned you. And
Yeah,
you
so-
deserved,
Still got-
you deserved better.
So
They still
before
got
Arks
2
of
top
Omen,
10s.
I don't know how.
Well, if you go 4-2 with some battle points, you're top 10. I don't know. Like that's like
Yeah. So before Arks of Omen, for anyone who's kind of just tuning in now, Chaos Space Marines had started to come very close to regular Space Marines total numbers.
Yeah, they were like 14, 20% of the meta some weeks.
They were pushing 10 to
Very
12%, and Marines were at like 14%.
Yeah.
Them dropping to 5% is just like, okay, what do we fix?
yeah,
Yeah.
they got ditched by everyone, including myself.
Sisters aren't doing that much better. They're at 2.6% of the meta this last week, only 14 players, and a 41.3% win rate.
Didn't they get like side graded? Didn't they like no?
They lost AOC. One of their best secondaries got kicked in the teeth.
Did it? Isn't that the one where they have to discard a miracle dice now?
Yeah, but you have to discard it instead of being able to use it.
But before they used to have to spend like 8 of them in weird jank nonsense.
Not
ways.
really. You had to spend either 2 in your opponent's turn or 3 in your turn, and it actually worked out pretty easily.
Yeah, Sisters players maxed that passively. You sometimes like you had to do weird stuff on like turn 5 if you hadn't naturally been playing a game. That was
Yeah.
about it.
I see.
Also, I want to say I'm very proud of the lone Crimson Fist player who managed to beat out the Imperial Fist win rate by having a
It's because Pedro Cantor's
41%.
broken, man, and Richard Siegel says it's the best army in the game.
But they have the same win rate as Tyranids
Oh.
at a 41.7% win rate, making up 3.7% of the meta. So that's another 10 to 12-ish% of the meta faction that is tumbled down to less than 4.
Goodness.
It's just I don't understand what Tyranids are meant to do now. I don't get it. I don't get what
Somebody got a top 4 with them.
Sure did. They played Behemoth Double Moloch, and I refuse to respect Behemoth Double Moloch.
That was not a top 4.
Was that not?
No, because he went 4-2, and there were
Right,
top
okay.
and top 4
Okay.
5 ones
I
made
was
up like the
worried
top
for a
14.
second.
So just to bring this into like a couple weeks now of
Oh, Anthony,
data.
the reason it's bad is because it's 1 dice at the end of the battle round, so you can only do it 5 times, and you have to discard a 4, a 5, or a 6 to get 2 or 3 VP. Otherwise, it's like 5 shots at 1 VP. It doesn't seem great.
Yeah,
that's fair.
and usually you want your 4s, 5s, and 6s for damage, charges, useful things.
I will say that it
spend a resource for victory points. Like, I don't know.
Seems they're a little harder to get the blood type, buddy. I don't know. I just want to convey that.
Doesn't feel like it when you play against them.
I think Gene Stealer Cult might be our new Harlequins, by the way. So if you look at both weeks of data, 17 players, 2.4% of the meta, so like old Harlequin numbers, 4.37 over rep and a 66.3% win rate for Gene Stealer Colt.
Oh no.
I'm afraid, Gene Stealer Colt players, that you are broken.
We know. Like, there's. I don't think anybody's. We said this like when it dropped. I think Gene Stealer's going to be top 3. I think Gene Stealer's going to be top 3. Yes, yes, they are. Nobody shot. I don't think they're like. I think there are armies that beat them. Let's not say that, but there were armies that beat Quins too. So,
yeah, there are definitely armies that beat them. We've got a local who's been playing them and who has gotten really good with them, and there are still some games where he just cannot play into it.
The Iron Hands meta, the Iron Hands game is still rough. Like
the Dark Angels Terminator game is pain.
Custodian's Wardens die real easy. That I like.
Yeah. Rerolls and Transhuman. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Then
4s. It's okay. We got 4s.
Dark Angels and Chaos Demons and Iron Hands kind of round that out of a top 3. Dark Angels with a 63 and a 1.65, and then Iron Hands with a 58.2 and a 1.6.
It's a really good time to be an Iron Hands and Gene Stealer player.
Chaos Demons are still extremely good, folks, despite a flamer nerf, because they have a 2 for overrep and a 58.4% win rate.
I think Demons players have finally figured out how to use Scarbrand properly, and they're just winning with him now, and it's great. The people were cutting Scarbrand for a long time, and he's just back now after LVO.
You take Scarbrand.
He's so good. He was like, when we were going through the codex the first time, he was like, immediately the first thing we latched onto was this guy in Face Cap Bloodthirster seemed good.
Yeah. I'm unbiased, by the way. Definitely take lots of Scarbrands. Fill tournaments with Scarbrands.
You want the plus 1 attack so bad, right?
I would never suggest that is why people take Scarbrand.
I will say this data is still pretty preliminary, obviously. Like, we're 2 weeks in. Some of these factions are under 30 players. We're under a couple hundred games for some of the most represented factions and stuff like that. So we're not like into a ton of data, but this is data that's probably good to look at to understand that maybe Gene Stealer Colt are too good.
There is also, I'm going to put, it's not a defense of Gene Stealer Cult, but it's a thing that is true. People do not have practice in Gene Stealer Cult, and they're not considering Gene Stealer Cult when they're building lists. Start doing that, and that win rate will go down. Give them some respect. Put in things that screen, things that all-spec well. The Iron Hands list runs nothing that all-specs is. So if you're not running Gene Stealer, if you're not running Infiltrators, that list will tear you apart. You have to give it some respect in list building, and that will be part of why its win rate is so high. And that was the same thing with Harlequins. You didn't see it a lot. It wasn't super worth building for because the odds you played it were pretty low. And if people continue to not give Gene Stealer Cult respect, Gene Stealer Cult will continue to do well. They will also be able to respond to you doing that. So, like, it's not free. And I'm not saying this is a defense. That win rate's too high. I think the ambush buff was a step too far. The other changes, I'm on board with. Ambush probably didn't need to be a 15-point secondary pretty much for free for showing up. I'm glad it is. But, yeah, so consider Gene Circle in list building a little more. Bring things that can kill bikes. Learn how to play around the respawning and falling back and the tagging stuff, because you can do it. It's hard, but you can stop it.
A lot of that stuff just got real weird if you play under the WTC FAQ.
Yes, it sure did. You really have to kill those guys to attacks now. It's like, oh, 4 attacks, seismic cannons are gone. I guess I'm okay now.
Yeah, you have to be like real careful.
Real
about
careful
which
with your
way that
WTC ruling
happens.
is. I'm assuming Tyler has been whinging at you about it.
There was a brief window where we were like, "Hey, does that army still work?"
And it's fine. It's still fine.
Yeah.
I was only thinking, I'm like, maybe you run a Magus now. Probably not, but we're gonna test it.
The other thing that I think is worth keeping an eye on is that Dark Angels and Iron Hands are kind of returning to end of 8th for Iron Hands, which also just might be a problem.
Iron Hands, I'm just gonna flat say it. If you're playing a bad terrain, Iron Hands are just broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're beatable, but it's not pretty.
Yeah, they're beatable, but it's not fun, and it's not something you should be having to deal with on that. Like, if you're playing on anything less than WC terrain, and even on WC terrain, it can be sketched on some of those boards, you're just gonna get shot. Like, there is not much you can do to stop them beating you. They won't always be by much, but if you go second and that drop pod just removes your answers, you will lose the game.
The
Co-
contemporary
Codex-
Village, now that AOC is gone too, that guy just sitting on AP1 is like,
He's also quite fun to outflank when your opponent's just like, I'll just hide from him. You're like, yeah?
Codex Warfare and the not needing to cycle through doctrines change might have been a mistake.
yeah. I mean, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's
Mhm.
anyone that read that and wasn't like, wait a minute.
As someone
One
who
of
did
these
that-
would have, one of these probably would have been fine. Both
Mm,
and the points drops?
yeah.
Let me just.
I was okay with, like, I still think, like, right now in this moment, even with as fucked as everything is, I still think that, like, letting them pick their doctrines is fine. I just think that the rest of it was way. I hate the way they handled the
I hate free board here
rude
so
points.
much.
Holy moly, am I tired of playing against just a horde of shit rats with melta-guns. If I wanted, like, that experience should be a GSC thing, not a Space Marine thing.
I can't believe I just get, like, I was trying to kill a Caladius in one of my games at my event the weekend before last, and I was like, do I have Scout Sergeant? Yep, got it. I need to put 3 damage on this guy. I guess I'll just kill it with my Scout Sergeant in combat. This is free. I was planning on tagging it, and then I remembered he had a Thunderhammer. I'm like, oh yeah.
He
don't
has an
sick-
offhand chance of just icing this Caladius.
Well, it had 3 wounds left because I had shot it with like the Scouts and the Landspeeder Tornado, also a fucked up data sheet. And it was like, it took 11 damage from that and like some chip. I was like, oh, Thunderhammer rolled in, 3 attacks, 4 hit. It's, average.
As one does.
I just
Under-
checked my weekend, and I maxed Codex Warfare in my first 4 games. The lowest I scored was my 5th game, which I lost because I was tabled turn 3, and I still scored 8 points on it.
I maxed it 3 in my 5 games. I maxed it 3 times. I scored 10 on it twice because I was playing customs that didn't have units, and I kept killing the last warden in combat or 2 morale, and I'm like, this shouldn't be happening, but I'm not going to complain.
You're still winning the
yeah.
horde.
I've seen 3 separate score sheets now where someone's gotten 13 or higher on that turn 1.
Yep.
That's rough. That's a terrain fault.
Give me
it feels
WCC
like.
board 5 and I'll
Although
make it happen.
Oh, that
everybody
board is
playing
so delicious for Iron Hands as
I
first
played
defender.
Diogo on that and I went second. It was so sad.
I heard what happened.
with gladiators and so many land speeders able to just hurl themselves like fully at you with multi-meltas and things. That's too many guns.
The gladiators is funny,
many
eh? Like,
guns.
such a fucking set of rat units with that gladiator, and it's a bad day in the office for those boys.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, they draw bead to like anything that's in the open and it just goes away. If it's infantry with like not a great, even infantry with an okay save, they just disappear.
Half measure, kitchen sink approach to Boston GW, says Tim. Yeah, that. I feel like Gene Circle got the second half measure, and I'm hoping like, kitchen sink cannot be coming next because stop.
Aberrants.
They have
Yeah,
all those.
I know.
They have all those aberrant models they keep trying to sell.
They just
put them
slide
in the
aberrants of
boarding
Pure Strain's
control.
core in the next update, and it's like,
Oh no!
Oh no!
With aberrants, that might be okay. With
no,
these
no, it's
two,
not.
pure
I
strains,
promise
it's
you, I
not.
promise you, it's not. You do not want to play against pauper princes, 30 aberrants, 30 Pure Strains in the middle of the border on the icon ward.
Dude,
Oh.
I guarantee that core aberrants will be fine. Those fucking things have 2 attacks. There's no way.
But
I
I'm
don't
telling
believe
you,
it.
it's not.
I don't believe you.
I don't really care.
to answer Shackleton's question, Space Marines are Skaven confirmed. It's actually just the Imperium as a whole is Skaven.
Right now.
Yeah, it's just the 40k Skaven is the Imperium. But that's it for stats. Do we want
Were
to
we
take...
talking? Was that the stats section?
That was the stats and briefly a meta recap. Do we want to take our
That
10
was
minute break?
that was we whinge about Space Marine section. Let's talk meta generally for another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll bounce on to we'll take the break. I feel like we should do.
What should we talk about from the meta then? Why don't we talk about more anti-gene stealer cult tech with some more specific advice than bring Auspex?
All right. So the way gene stealer cults win games is by having very good passive scoring secondaries and also some secondaries that require them to throw away a very minimal amount of stuff that then takes board pressure off you and relieves pressure. So the usual way to do that is you take Brute Swarm, which very consistently scores 3 points a turn for having more models on the board, more models in your deployment zone, and more models in the neutral area of the board. You can get 5 on it by going to your opponent's deployment zone. It's not necessary to score 15 on it. Gene Stealer Cult players sweat a lot by getting like the 5 on turn 2 and 3 on that. Just get 3s on it, you'll get 15. Don't worry about it. If you need to do it on 5, you usually can get the 5 if you drop the turn somewhere here or there. Don't worry too much about it. Then they take something like Ambush and something like R&D or Banners, depending on the mission, and then you may have a slightly better kill secondary. So like against Knights, you might take Bring It Down instead of Ambush, just because it's a little easier. Ambush scores passively by killing things with crossfire markers. 2 points for killing things with crossfire marker on it. 2 if your unit was set up in reserve this turn, and 2 if they were exposed while you do it to a cap of 5 in battle round. And then R&D Banners are R&D and Banners. If I need to explain that to you, you might be listening to the wrong show. I'm really sorry. So what that means is the Gene Stealers are generally priced into playing fairly KG, fairly defensively early because, you need to keep models alive. You need to have more models on the board, but you also need to create enough space on the board to, get behind them, to score ambush, to get into the deployment zone for R&D, all these kind of things. So the way they do that is traditionally by throwing bikes at you, which they will then try to regenerate using the icon word if they do damage. Bikes have a very aggressive pregame move. They have an ability to spend a bunch of CP to do a bunch of damage. So they can do things like throw 6 demo charge shots at flat 3 damage, which is, +1 to hit and wound. It'll pick up most things that don't have an invulnerable save pretty reliably. So like 5 Space Marines, I would reasonably expect to lose to that. Like a toughness 7 vehicle, you would probably expect to lose. Something like a Lehman Russ, maybe not, because you're winning on 3s, they're setting on 5s. Like, it's a little dicey there, but it's a lot of damage output. And then the drop turn comes in. Everybody's experienced a Gene Stealer drop turn probably at least once. It's usually a combat drop turn. These days, we're mostly playing shooting, which means you come in, you light the boulder up with seismic cannons, which are, ignoring cover, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, reasonably high AP in 1 and 2, but not setting the world alight. So like Storm Shields, problem. Like Deathwing Terminators, very difficult for a Gene Stealer army to kill because there's not much in the army that's above AP3, which means that at worst they're saving on 3s. If you can stop exposed, you're saving on 2s. Start getting used to stopping Gene Stealer players getting exposed on you. The best way to do that is to physically block your opponent getting behind you or to be in the creases of ruins. It's super, super difficult for a Gene Stealer player. If you've got a unit that's just fully pressed against, so if you've got like a ruin wall like this, or your unit's just here touching the side of it, with like the other wall here, it's really hard to visualize. But if you're fully in the corner of a room with no models like sticking out past it, they have to cut the angle on the ruin to get across you. So like they have to go diagonally from one corner of unit to the other corner, like across a ruin to another one of their units, which isn't always super easy. So usually if you could be really far forward in a ruin, other than like spending CP or using one of the pregame upgrades, which one unit has, you will generally be able to get cover if you're in a ruin against Gene Stealer Cult, which limits their damage output significantly. Shotguns or AP dash, that's where a lot of your consistent damage output comes from. Seismic cannons are AP1 or AP2. They don't have a lot of ways to dig you out of that ruin besides throwing weight of fire at you. That's one way to minimize efficiency, is to just not get caught in the open. If you're doing player place terrain, that means getting objectives with ruins on if possible, or being behind containers because containers do give light cover. If you can keep the angle short, great. Or using things like Auspex Scan, forewarn for Craft Worlds to pick up the units that are dropping down on you. So yeah, maybe you're not able to get in range of the unit that's just dropped in front of you because they're 12.1 inches away and they're going to just not shoot their shotguns. But the unit that dropped in for crossfire and R&D, shoot them. Then they'll get +1 hit and wound. So it's always a thing to consider. You just have to be more diligent at screening. Remember the Gene Stealer can come in 6 away, but they usually don't want to because it's often quite good to try to get charges with units that are going to die anyway, to just hold you up, hold you in position. The characters are usually very badly defended, especially if they've been listening to me, because nobody ever. It's really hard to chase down a Gene Stealer player's characters while they're putting a lot of pressure on you. Trying to find ways in your list to go and get them. So something like Iron Hands with the land speeders is great for this, because the land speeders can just disengage from the combat. You can pop the 1 CP strategy to fall back and shoot and go and chase down a character. Making sure that they break in coherency. One really good gimmick for the Gene Circle have is if you're in combat with a squad of 20 guys and you kill a few guys at the front, they may kill the guys in the middle, and then when they take the morale check, they fail it, they lose a few guys at the front, and then all the rest of the ones at the front where the combat is now die to coherency checks, and then the icon ward can regenerate models at the back end of the squad, which is not in combat, meaning the squad which doesn't natively fall back and shoot can disengage from combat, regenerate models, which will be seismic cannons, and then come back and shoot you anyway. So if you're trying to tag up Gene Circles, get as many models in combat as possible so that you can break them down into, like, you know, you can make more models have to run for them to get away, or you can be in engage range of as many as possible. Don't base Gene Circles when you're charging. Just get as much in there as you can to try and jam them up. If you can, get to the stuff by the icon ward, because you will just limit it more. It's all little things like this that will make your game into Gene Circle a lot more palatable. A lot of this doesn't happen because people have very little experience playing GSC. A lot of the time, like even now when I show up to the table and like, you know, you're 4-1, 3-0, whatever, and you're playing people who have a lot of experience playing 40k will not know what a Gene Circle army does. So you just kind of have to like put some effort in, try and get a practice game into them, put them on the table yourself on TTS or whatever, just get some experience with them. Because if Gene Circle are going to be forcing the meta, which I think they are, I think like about a month from now, there's no more excuse if you're just losing to GSC because you don't know what they do. You need to fix this problem yourself, because GW aren't fixing this until at least April. So the onus is on you to make a change. If you don't want to lose to GSC, go and get better. Go and practice into them. Design your list a bit differently. And like, because I don't know what Gene Circle do excuse stops holding water once they've been the top army in the meta, once they've been one of the top armies in the meta for a little while.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for guard, you have the order to deny deep strike within 12 inches.
Right, I just spoke for a while. Sorry.
That was a great explanation, though. Thank you, Ines. Like, you have to find your tool set. Like, in guard, you should probably include somebody who can order during your opponent's command phase to give the deny bubble if you go second. Like, that might be a thing that you want to consider including.
Actually, Adam, you stole my codex after we played and then gave it back to me. Like a month later is what actually happened here. You might have bought it on top of that, but what actually happened?
That's so funny.
I think to answer Ella Woozle's question, which is teching against GSC going to weaken your army into other armies that have a much higher representation? I don't think so, personally.
It might, but that's 40k is ultimately always going to be a game of taking risks. You have to decide what level of tolerance you have. If you decide not to make your Gene Circle matchup better and you face roll, you take it into GSC and get face rolled, that's on you. That's a risk you took. You can't be upset about that at that point.
Well, a lot of the tools that are good against GSC are also very good against demons, so it's worth considering that you're
like,
kind of fulfilling both.
Spend the 10 points to upgrade your incarcers to infiltrators. Take a squad of infiltrators and Space Marines.
2, please.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you're playing Votan, bring the Warp Strike Relic on a call or something. Just use
that's fine.
Like, yeah, I'm not saying to bring Target, but if you like, don't run Grudge's End, run that guy so you can defend an objective and not get it stolen off you with a 3-inch deep strike.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways. Don't throw Sentinels at Gene Circle players. Please, for the love of God, if you want to win the game, do not do that. It's so bad. Please give me Sentinels to hug with all of my might. I will put 30 bikes into a Sentinel, and it will not be good for you.
I love it.
That Sentinel's not dying. So, on the other hand, if people are going to jump up to GSC and not be very good at breathing murder, yeah, probably. But
Gene Stealer Cult is a hard army to play.
Are you planning for the people who are bad at the army, or are you planning for are you trying to win games, or are you trying to beat chumps?
Yeah. Are you trying to win events, or are you trying to win games?
Yep. And some of that's going to come down to your local meta. Like, if you know that nobody's going to your GT who's bringing a Gene Stealer Cult army, like you just know that, then don't tech for Gene Stealer Cult. But if you're going to go to a major or like a larger event where a Gene Stealer Cult player is going to show up, you probably should at least consider putting some tech.
If you live within 3 hours of Alex McDougall, just do it, man.
Otherwise, you might get McDougall, and you'll be sad.
Or if you happen to live in Toronto for the same reason, because of Christian.
Yep.
As John says, God, the army is hard. Yeah, Gene Circle is a hard army to play. I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's the hardest army in the game or anything like that, but it is not an army that has easy sequencing. The drop turn can be very complicated. Sometimes you will screw it up. But the people who were out there winning, there were 17 Gene Circle players this weekend?
There were 17 over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like 12
I promise
last
you,
weekend.
like 12 of those were playing them in Nephilim,
13.
and I've been playing them for a while.
I think the thing with GSC is less that it's difficult because like it's hard, but it's not like crazy difficult. I don't
No,
think.
but
I
it's
think
it's
just
one
that
of the more
hold
difficult
on,
armies in 4K.
chill out. I think that it's the main thing with it is that it's super punishing. So like it is like the turns structurally aren't terribly different from most like armies go turns outside of like do you have a laser? Right, you've resolved 70% of the difficulty. Like
If you're gonna play GC, buy a laser. That is good advice.
but like the problem with it is if you do fuck it up, there's no like you probably just lost on the spot. The other armies that like have been good through the meta that have been the top army had a lot more like fault tolerance. GSE don't have that. So in terms of like beating GSE, recognizing where that fault tolerance just happened or like where they made the small mistake is really important for beating them. I beat two of GSE's like in terms of like their very tiny community, I beat two very good GSE pilots at OVO by doing that.
Yeah, because Anthony knows how to recognize those mistakes and punish them. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you what those mistakes are because it's all on the board context dependent, and I can't just be like, if Gene Circles have done this and this, it's a mistake. There will always be context where sometimes you just got to go for Hail Mary plays, and if it doesn't work, then it looks like a mistake. That is Gene Circle. Gene Circle is, I would say Gene Circle are like the highest risk management army, like in terms of you have to decide what you're willing to commit for and how much you're willing to split fire and all that kind of thing, and they don't have a lot of recourse when that goes wrong.
No, when things go wrong in GSE, you lose. That's the problem,
exactly.
right? Like,
which is why I would be like, yeah, they're probably like one of the hardest armies out there, like in terms of general build. But yeah, I don't think any army in the game is. I suppose when we're saying things like, I don't think any army in the game is hard. Like, there's no army that you're going like you can't get good at with practice as anybody. Like nothing in the game is going to be like. I don't know, we're not playing like physical sports. You can put reps and you can get good at this stuff.
There are certain armies that were hard but not punishing. Like Harlequins were difficult to like play perfectly, but not particularly punishing if you didn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I think it might be a little different.
I think we're kind of all
very different.
We're getting into the weeds on like how are we defining terms now. I don't think that's super helpful.
Yeah, I just think those two things are separate categories. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, there are some people in chat who are asking, and specifically Tim Penny, a host on one of our shows, who's asking.
In his big brain, blah blah blah, just like Nids. Yep, Nids were not hard to play. Anybody who tells you otherwise is telling you something. I went from Crusher to Leviathan to Kraken, and I did not rub one brain cell together the entire way through.
It's mostly because Innis only has the one, and there's not a second one to rub together with it.
But, hey man, that's all you need for best in faction Tyranids.
It's true.
Actually, that's a lie. The Kraken list into hard matchups was actually difficult to play. Every single other one was not, but that's because the Kraken list was the weakest of the set. Right. That, I think, is a good natural stopping point. I have decided to lower the win rate of everybody who plays GSC by at least 1% by having that discussion, I think.
Innis, do the plugs.
I'm going to do the plugs, and then we're going to take a break. So, this is Stat Check. If you're listening at this point still, I assume you're enjoying the show, so thank you very much for being with us. There are a few ways you can support us, and we would love it if you could take the opportunity, if you could take the chance, opportunity, chance, and time. I'll just go with all of them to do at least one of those. So if you want to support us in a very easy way, chuck us a like, chuck us a subscription, chuck a comment on the video. Any of those are super helpful for us getting out there, getting discovered, and just interacting with the community and knowing what you guys enjoy, what you guys like talking about, what you guys like hearing about, what you don't. We're working on timestamps. Somebody asked about timestamps previously. We're going to see if we can get that sorted. If you want to support us a little bit more, there are a few ways you can do that. You can check us out at patreon.com/statcheck, where you can join our Patreon. There's a few different tiers there, but the standard one is $5 a month, gets you access to our Discord. You can ask us a bunch of questions that we'll be more than happy to answer. Or you can now super chat us on YouTube, as John has just done for us. John's one of my coaching clients, telling people to stop telling what Jesus does. I have stopped. I'm not doing it anymore. That is a new feature there. We would really appreciate that. We will do our best to answer any questions that come through for everybody. But if you chuck us a super chat, we will be making sure that gets answered as a priority, along with people in Discord, because they are big supporters of us. You can also check out our other shows. We now are publishing Enter the Matrix and X and One, which are shows done by other people on our network. Enter the Matrix is covering WTC and all of its glory, team events, other various captains and interviews. It's some of the best 4K content out there, frankly. If you really want to get into the meat and the crunch, the show can be a little unserious at times. I don't think that's a real word, but we take our liberties with the meta, but we try to be as informative as possible. That show is just informative all the time. Typhus does an amazing job with it, and I highly recommend it. And our new show, X and One, which is run by Cliff and Tim, which is covering all of the 40k from the side of things of the people who can't maybe make the time commitment, can't make the effort, but still want to do well. If that's something that at all appeals to you, you should go and check it out, because it's from two people who are both very committed to the 40k community, but also very committed to other aspects of their life and finding the balance between those. And I think they both do an excellent job of explaining some ways you can do that in ways that you may not have considered. And if that's something that appeals to you, you should go and check it out, because it might help you change the relationship with 40k that you have in a more productive way. And I really recommend it. And on that note, we're going to take a 5-10 minute break. We will still be here in the chat for anybody on the live stream, which you can check out at youtube.com/c/statcheck every week at 11 p.m. on Tuesdays, GMT, and various other times at 6 p.m. Eastern. I forgot one. So we're going to take a small break. We'll still be here live for the chat. I'm going to go grab another glass of water, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do questions from the Discord and from the Super Chats. Thank you everybody for being with us for part one of the show again. I have to start saying that. I don't like that. We will be back with you shortly.
It's not part one. It's the first half.
First half, yeah. The show, the
first,
the juicy content. We're in the break now. This is fine.
We're the first 2/3 of the candy bar. I don't know.
The first 12 blocks of the bar of Hershey's.
Mm-hmm. The first 8 of the dozen.
Thank you to John and Tim and John for chucking us a super chat, and for Martin for doing it earlier. It's greatly appreciated. I think there was another one.
Joel as well.
Yep.
There's just one from Tim that's just handing $2 back to us to hand part of it to him.
Yep, John, we are on the intermission, so I'm going to grab a glass of water. We will be generally bantering with the chat. I think if this gets cut out of the main show, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to trim out the little banter here.
So this will be on the live stream if you want to catch it back live. Otherwise, it will just be trimmed out of the show, because it will be generally pretty loose.
Yeah, this is the part of the show where we all just kind of sit here and stare off into the distance.
Tim, do you cut the chocolate dick vein off separately and need to save it, have it separately, or
it is
monstrous?
You got to devein the chocolate bar.
Did you see that one about the left Twix, right Twix? I posted in Discord a couple days ago.
The one that was 280 in a row, left, right, yeah.
As always, Alex Taus Frontiers is sliding into my DMs mid-show to try to make me laugh, which is not that hard to do.
Very powerful.
I looked at Nassim's list that he posted, that he shared, rather.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I like that many Scout Sentinels.
Man, it's really hard to be nice about the show without being sappy.
Aww.
Being sappy is fine.
That's adorable.
Yeah, but I don't think it fits my brand.
It's because you're just crunchy on the outside, but you're just soft on the inside, Ines.
That's one way to look at it.
Nurgle Matt got you. That's quite funny.
Thank you, Nurgle Matt. My Gene Circle playing teammate is telling me to stop telling Space Marine players to put infiltrators in their list.
Put the infiltrators into the list. They're so cheap. Every single one on my list starts with 10.
Yeah.
I guess I hadn't seen. I just feel like I can't even imagine seeing a list without them. They're the best backfield and midfield objective holders.
But that's 100 points of. I could almost fit 2 land speeders in for that.
Dude, people are so fucking greedy in this game. It drives me insane.
Sticky objectives. They're annoying as all hell to remove. If you happen to have free CP, they get real annoying to remove.
If you got 2, you can spend 2 CP and make them just impossible to kill. Great.
Yeah.
If I feel the pain in a transhuman, let's have a go.
If you have 3 CP, you can make a -1 to hit too.
Yeah, but who doesn't hit on 2s nowadays?
Yeah. Just put them in the midfield. That's all I ask. Not much.
Just let me charge them, bro.
Within chain axe range. Just within chain axe range.
To me.
I'm being told to put an ad on right now. I'm not going to do that.
Is that on Twitch or YouTube?
YouTube.
We're not putting an ad on. We have too much self-respect at this moment in time. We'll
Yeah.
see how my money situation goes before I'm starting to beg you.
Well, then you can just start doing your editing.
Why use any troop other than infiltrators at the moment? Because you're playing.
There
No, I
really
got
isn't a
nothing.
good reason. Yeah.
You should always include one. Just take the one mandatory troop thing you got to take and just make it an infiltrator squad.
You don't have to take a troop, bro.
You
It's
don't
not
have
a
to take
thing.
any. I thought you still had to take one. Oh,
No.
No.
0.
Arks
0 to 9.
No, man.
Yeah.
For some reason. Well, you should take one troop unit and it should just be an infiltrator squad.
You should take 2.
Take one squad of 10 so you can first drop it against World Series players and make them sad. As you
I'll
then use
be
Lord
so
of Deceit.
depressed.
As you use Lord of Deceit to redeploy backwards. I'm considering that in Iron Hands right now. Making my lieutenant a full boss guy, so I can Lord of Deceit them the 2 squads of infiltrators backwards.
0 fucking chance you take Lord of Deceit for that point. That specific. Fuck
It also
you.
really doesn't matter against World Eaters.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Does it affect anything
it doesn't,
about
no.
the pregame move?
No.
They can
Well, I mean, you
pregame
could
move
make a
within-
wall.
Yeah. Oh, do they?
You can physically stop them coming
You
through.
can-
You can
you
keep them
can-
an inch further back by physically
Okay.
blocking them.
Go
it
for
would
it.
be it would be 3 inches, right?
Instead
You
of
got me,
what,
Because you didn't
Oh.
go. You didn't go 11. Yeah, value. That might be
9
the 3
inches
the
instead of
3 inches
11
you need.
inches of move.
It'd be 8 instead of 11, right? Because they'd have to stand an inch away.
That's fair.
You got me.
Dang.
No, but it's
Johnny,
really
yeah.
funny into It's really funny into GSC.
Yeah, there it might be good. Johnny asked me how World Leaders are going. World Leaders are fucking awesome. I love them greatly. It's like GW wrote me personally a book, so that is
But you said
basically
that you said that with Emperor's Children as well. So
that was true. That was awesome too. And now it's not anymore. And then they wrote me a new one. It was great.
they personally wrote me the Coven rules, and then Emperor's Children, and then
Not the Coven. Drakari was cool, but not like it didn't feel as directed. But the main thing is that World Eaters are basically keeping me interested right now because everything else that I like play, own, or really have like good solid access to is pretty shit. So thanks,
Alright,
World
Anthony.
Eaters.
Seth, you gotta just score, bro. You just gotta score. Just one more good bits. Just one more good bits, bro.
All right, Rattrek has asked, since this is kind of in the whatever time, how many people or how big does Capital City end up at average? We sell out pretty much every single year. This last year we had 122 people that actually played, and I think we sold 130 tickets.
That's the Suffering event, right? That's the one that's like right after WTC.
Yeah, it was the week after WTC. I YOLO'd and
Tim,
submitted
stop donating
a
yourself
night's
money.
list.
That's
Tim,
why he
stop
does
sending
it.
yourself money.
It's the worst exchange rate though, because you're sending it to yourself and YouTube is taking like 30% of it, and then it gets split among 7 people.
Actually, no. Keep doing it because other people might take the bait and do it as well.
There you go. Tim,
Everybody
that
send us
tomorrow.
super chats. This is how I'm paying
Also,
for food.
Nurgle Matt reminded me that we might as well just plug merch. If you guys like the objective markers that you see at events that we have, the black ones are on sale at a link that Jeremy will put in chat or something like that. You can get
reddragon.ca is the shop, and you can find it in their merch section.
Yeah, just
And
don't
there
make the R a B, and you'll be sad. Or
You have to make
thrilled.
that bed dragon. It's very different, bro.
But
Oh,
yeah,
damn
you
it.
can buy dice and our black objective markers there. They are amazing.
Alex, I am interested in CK. They're just not very good.
I'm
One of my clients has asked me to
in-
play a Knight's Army Anthem tomorrow. I'm like, I don't hate myself enough to play CK.
I mean,
I'm
like
interest-
they're fine. They're just not that good. Oh, he did it again. All right, fair enough.
I mean, Tim, you can do what you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm interested in World Eaters. Every local that I know is picking up a World Eaters army, and it's just too many World Eaters.
I asked
Joshua
them-
picked up World Eaters. The
I
man
asked
had
the
a
Team
no
Scotland
chaos
chat, and
rule.
6 people were like, "Yeah, so I'm getting World Eaters," and I was like, "I'll just buy Angron."
There's going to be a lot of sad Angrons in the world.
I'm just buying him to paint him. Like at this
York
point,
will probably be thrilled. He'll never leave the shelf. He'll never die. It's going to be awesome. But like the
yeah,
rest,
my guy's
of
gonna
them,
sit next to Magnus and Mortarion on my shelf of pretty models, and they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"I own 5 models I'm proud of. 4 of them are Primarchs, and one of them is Bellicor." It's gonna be great.
Press has a good idea actually. Objective markers with the face of each host on one different.
But now we
objective
have 7
marker.
hosts. It doesn't work.
We'll have to
Once we,
split one between two people.
we
I
get
don't
good
know.
here
Or maybe you'll
for
get a
five.
random one.
So the stat guys share a brain. The X1 guys share a brain. We can put them on their own objective together.
Yeah.
It's just the two of them like this, like
Doing the
No, they're
fusion
like
dance.
like a fusion, yeah.
oh yeah. No, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
connect,
No, other way. There you go.
you connect the fist for a
This
fist
is like the
bump
love
with
heart. This is like the
X-ray.
love hearts again, Nathan. We
No,
can't do
Yeah.
that.
I can't do that. It's just
The face
too
of
hard
Angron
because
gets
it's
picked up for free by 3 to 4 8 pound. You have to consider that's 24 to 32 demons, and Angron's only one.
oh no. Somebody keeps telling me that Angron coming back repeatedly is a good thing, and I'm like, it's not.
I don't know if he has to die to come back. It means he's dying repeatedly.
Don't you need
Yeah.
6 blood tithe points? Don't you have a better use for 6
Dude,
blood tithe
all right.
points?
Let's get this out of the way. Angron in the game works exactly like he works in the lore, where he's useless for the Legion and takes up a bunch of resources that should be used on literally fucking anything else. Fuck that guy.
Spend 360 points on rhinos that you leave in reserve to die on turn 1.
To get
For
blood
blood
tithe
tithe
points.
points.
No,
Don't
no,
even
no.
leave them in reserve. Just don't put
You
troops
deploy
on
them empty.
Yeah.
That is actually my plan if I ever have to play Thousand Suns for some reason. I'm just going to leave one of my rhinos with no troops in it and be like, yep, 5 up field, no pain, thanks.
Yeah,
You
gotta
only
do
get
with 2.
one blood
Oh,
tithe.
no, you only
point,
get one. I
right?
have to do it. Well, never mind. I'll just put the rhinos in front and the 10 wounds will be enough.
Yeah, because they don't die in a phase. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't get
yeah,
the bonus blood tithe
yeah.
point.
Seth makes a better point. We could make them collectible. So, like, one, you randomize the faces that are in the objective marker sets.
Yeah.
And you just make
Innocent Anthony are common objectives. Clutch the super rare.
Yes.
the.
You can
Like,
collect
it's a-
your own. And there's one
the
with
guy-
there's one with just the static logo. There's like 8 of them, and then there's a special one that's just got an egg on it that only people in the Discord understand.
Yeah, so we're basically going to turn objective markers into gotcha game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Sure.
Why
And
not?
frankly, guys, if it pays my rent, I don't mind.
Someone will do it. Like there will be one person, but there'll be one person that has like 58 objective markers.
Dickie also is. You're wrong. Angron is not the coolest guy you know that you never invite him to the party. You just invite Sanguinius. Just
Yeah,
invite
that's the coolest guy
Sanguinius.
anyone knows.
I would not want. I don't want to be at a party that Angron gets invited to, and as a person who doesn't go to many parties or any parties, that's very easy.
Yeah, you invite Angron to like the metal show, not the house party.
I don't know, I feel like he would make it all about him, and you're there to see the band, right? So
Oh, he's in the band for sure.
He's the drummer.
Yeah, just
he's got 2 chicken drumsticks. If somebody models up Angron with 2 chicken drumsticks, I would like to play against that in a tournament. I know I'll play Angron at a tournament and lose to him now, though 100% that I just said this.
There are a lot of people playing Orkgron right now, like the green wob.
Very rare. Anthony actually hosting it into the Matrix.
it's not my show. It's always Typhus' show. I am a vehicle through which others succeed.
He was there until we trusted Typhus enough to give him the password to the
Yeah.
StreamYard account.
Yeah.
And now we trust Typhus significantly more than Anthony. So
It's not hard to get there. Most people you trust more than me for some reason. So the threshold is not very high.
Yeah, and back to Bloodbath. We're going for 160 this
yeah,
year.
remember
We're going
the
to try to
question.
push to 200.
Woo!
Bloodbath is one of those ones that's on my list to do along with Canhammer
The
Teams.
timing sucks.
It's just
So-
not possible. It's
so
never
bad.
happening.
Yeah,
like-
I YOLO'd Knights to that event this year because I was so dead. Like, it was the Saturday of the WTC. We were sitting in our round. I was like, oh, I have to submit a list. What do I submit? That night list that's kicking everyone's
I did
ass
a-
here
I
is
did an
working
event.
real well.
I did an event the weekend after WT as well. That was a bad decision.
Idiots.
It was an RTT. It was fine. I won. It was all good. But I played Jormungandr. It was awful.
That was the worst. That was the worst one because it made you think that was an okay thing to do.
As Anthony said, that was a terrible idea, and you shouldn't have done it.
Jeremy, what's the odds you could smuggle me like in your suitcase back to Canada and I'll do the event that way?
I mean, you could just come back. Like,
I
it's not like
could.
you have to go to work on Monday. Like,
No, I know. It's a little awkward. Like, it's just awkward. It's a lot of time away in a short burst, right?
Just come and hang out.
just live in Canada for a bit,
It's,
bro. What are they going to
it's
do?
wonderful here in the summer.
I'm sure it is. All right, should we roll back into the main show now?
I mean, are we just doing questions? I don't know.
Yeah, but we should probably do it with an easier cut. So we're going to shut up for 10 seconds so that there's a natural pause for Jeremy to edit from.
This is why you got to count to 30 seconds so that our monetization stays intact.
I keep an eye on it.
Okay,
Damn.
we're gonna do the actual cut now. When the clock ticks to 1:10, we're gonna start. I'm gonna get the questions up. That's not Discord. Okay, welcome back to the second part. After the intermission, we've edited out a bunch of nonsense. Go and watch the live show replay if you really want to catch it all. There's some deep stat check lore in there. No, there's not. It's awful. There's a reason we're cutting it out. We are going to now jump into our Discord questions as well as our Super Chat questions. And then if we've got some time left around the half-hour mark of this, we will take questions from the general YouTube chat. So we're going to start with Discord. And Cliff has decided to collate them for us this week. So I kind of feel bad about this, but we're going to use it. Now I don't get to read all the nonsense. Dan F asks, what is everyone besides Innis, or when is everyone besides Innis getting their Rob Goonhammer illustrations, and what factions are you going to choose, or did you choose?
I don't know when, but I really want a picture of me with butcher's nails, like just the middle dread.
I like that idea. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I would do at this point. Maybe probably just do the homunculus thing. That sounds rad. Why not? Just do that.
Nathan would be my eyes.
Just a lot
Someone
of
might just feedback him.
Jeremy's gonna get an AdMech, like an AdMech tech priest, but with the stat check logo instead of the AdMech symbol.
Nah, it's Ravenwing all the way.
Heartbreaking.
It's definitely just a bike. Just a bike. Not even a face.
It's just
a bike.
Jeremy is the seat.
Popping a wheelie on that bike.
It's
Actually,
true.
He does already have that. It is a good picture, but it's not.
I
have a Gene Circle picture with like it's very weird. I have a Gene Circle with hair and a beard. It does not. It's an odd look. It just looks wrong somehow, which I think works for me. So, all right. Dan F also asks, what list or army is your guilty faction to play? Is your guilty pleasure to play?
I don't think that there's like a guilty faction to play. Like, whatever, guys. Like, just play the things that you love and be done with it.
For me, it's Custodes.
I really like Mortarion and Magnus. It's unfortunately illegal now, but I have an unhealthy fascination with Magnus and or Mortarion in lists. I always RTT, if there's no stakes and there's nobody else good going, I'm like, just play Magnus or I'll just play Mortarion.
Didn't you just play that at one that never mind. You know,
yeah, I won an RTT that Chris was at with it. Yeah, absolutely. That was the joke I was making.
Poor guys.
Look, man, Scotland isn't a real meta. I just do whatever I want. It's fine.
It's just Innis and like 5 people.
No, there's a lot more than 5 people. They just don't matter. He said immediately before getting vibe checked at the next tournament.
I hope you go 1 and 2 so bad.
Dude, it'd be... Brian's borrowing my Iron Hands and I actually don't know what to play because someone else is borrowing my Gene Circle. I'm like,
the Death Guard.
Oh, wait. No, absolutely not.
Why not?
I don't have the Plague Marines to run it.
That's probably my other one, actually.
I've got like 60 Bolter Plague Marines. I'm just not doing it.
What are they going to do? Just paint the base different. You'll be fine.
No, I have self-respect.
Yeah, purple
not
is
that much. Yeah, purple is the flail. I'll get confused. That's the problem. That's the real confusion point, is that I won't have a clue what's going on. All right. What subfaction has improved the most relative to other subfactions for their faction from Nephilim to Arks? Iron Hands. Because Dark Angels were kind of fine before. Like, you saw Terminator was doing well. Iron Hands were, like, you did. Not much, but you saw people going, like, 4-1 through. Iron Hands were doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, no, because you had Nassim who did fairly well with them.
Not in Nephilim.
Fair,
Nassim's
he switched
been
to
playing
Tau.
Tau for 4 months. That is the entirety of the way back to Nachmund.
Iron
All
Hands
right, fair enough.
Iron Hands is probably the subfaction that got the biggest bump. Yeah.
Nargoma, I deeply appreciate the offer, but I'm not borrowing Plague Marines. Like that is so much worse. Like if it was my own models, I'd be like, at least I'm not borrowing Plague Marines. That is a level of depravity I will not stretch to.
I do want to highlight. We did say we would get to this first.
Oh yeah, super chats. Ymir every time.
Ymir.
So I was digging into this because I'm curious.
The question is, would you say Ymir or Great Arthurian League is better? This was asked by Martine in a super chat.
Yes. So I was curious after he asked this. So I dug into, oh, we lost an Anthony. I'm going to have fun editing that back in. I dug into the data on this, and Ymir and Great Arthurian League are performing exactly the same right now in terms of win rate in Arks of Omen, which is
But I
kind of
don't
weird
respect
because,
the real league.
yeah, I don't quite understand. I mean, I guess it's because they just get more tokens so they can kill shit
What's
more
the
easily.
player base count like for that though? Like, what's the sample
Pretty
size?
equal.
I'm genuinely kind of shocked at that. I know, like Shane Watts from Goonhammer is fairly high in Great Arthurian League. He played at LVO, but like, I don't see it. I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, although I will say it is kind of funny to watch a Magriel cannon slice through Deathwing Terminators.
I have the biggest question I have for Great Arthurian League though is the Iron Hands matchup not just unplayable with all the AP5 metal running around?
That's what I'm worried about because, like, I don't know, because I feel like you're still running forts, but then you're saving on 6.
It's true, man. You blanked two. You blanked one with Uther and one with the other 15. What was your plan there? I just kind of don't get it. We were also asked. Joel asked us to be forced to answer questions about eggs, but this isn't a question about eggs, so I'm not going to. Thank you for the money, Joel, but there wasn't a question here, so I don't really know what to do with this. And Tim asks webbed belt versus braided belt, and I
What is
don't
a
have an
webbed
answer.
belt?
I don't know what either of these things are, to be honest. I use a regular belt with
I
a
would-
buckle.
I'll pick a webbed belt over a braided belt, I suppose.
I'll pick a webbed belt because it sounds closest to Weber's, and that makes me.
Oh,
GSC
definitely a
happy.
webbed belt over a braided belt.
No,
Okay,
it's
I assume
definitely
you're looking at
braided.
pictures, so
I just looked at,
it.
and I can't stand these kinds of belts.
I don't know. I refuse to look up pictures for this. I'm sorry, Tim. Tim also says dance puppets and synth for like these aren't questions, guys. Like I really appreciate the money, but these are not questions. I can't do anything with this. He'll also ask, how about that question about Iron Hands aren't allowed? Masterful shots and swift strikes seems real good after the FAQ changes to confirm it works and everything.
Yeah, it's real potent.
It's real good. Eldar are just broken still. I hate Eldar so much. They're by far my least favorite. I think Death Skull's made out like bandits. They score so well. Solar Watch probably is another big one that's very important now that wasn't at all anywhere before. The new Warden points just make it much more palatable, being the only subfaction.
It's not even points. They're the exact same cost as they were before.
I thought they went down from 55 to 50 for Wardens.
No, they've always been 50. It was quite literally they got their strats back and they got upset.
Oh, they got the strats back and they got upset. Oh, right. So the difference was that they were just garbage before. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Solar Watch now being much more palatable with objectives secured on Wardens. Honestly, I think Wardens probably just need to go up in points a little bit. Not much, just like, I would even like 2 points just so you get a couple less things in that list. But I don't even know if that was a problem. So
I was going to say Dark Angels just because Dark Angels are a sub-faction.
I'd say Ravenwing got a lot. I think the Deathwing stuff basically stayed as it was. It's still resilient. It was always resilient. It just has support now.
They got free upgrades though, didn't they? Because
they gained like 2 cycle missile launchers per 10 guys.
Well, and also Thunderhammer Storm Shields are free now.
Yeah, that's
true. Yeah, I didn't
like the 10-man brick that I ran at my event this weekend cost me 330 points, and it only cost 485.
Yeah, that's fair. I still kind of like the Chain Fist and Boar ones with Azrael, but I understand.
Yeah, but they're also cheaper.
Yeah, they're like 320 now, 330 now.
Yeah, they're 330 and they were 380 before.
Yeah, so like there's benefits. Custodians don't need to pay troops tax is really nice as well.
Yeah, the Arks of Omen combined with the reversion of the nerfs to them was a big deal.
Yep.
We're just probably Anthony's net has died. We do not know if he'll be back by the time we end the show, but he is right here now. So that is how you jinx things. It's like I planned it. Let's go with I planned it. I said Anthony's net's died. I don't know if he'll be back before the end of the show, and you immediately reconnected.
Bam.
So I'm going to call that planned. Yeah. Right. Next question we have is what.
That was just I hit the wrong button. That was my fault.
What is
Jeremy's going to be so mad.
Would stop taking or is a trap? Incursors.
Now,
agreed.
Yeah.
Death Guard players stop taking Mortarion challenge.
Never.
Difficulty level impossible.
Stop trying to change my world leaders list and then send it to me and be like, what do you think about this list? This is like way worse. Drives me nuts.
But dude, what if I cut all of the Berserkers for 10 Terminators and 3 Helverants?
Drives me
Man.
insane.
There are
But
so
dude,
many people
There's
in
vents
my
on my
local
board. I can
Discord.
stand them. I can stand on the vents.
All my locals are very obsessed with the idea of running Helverins in their World Eaters armies, and it's
Just run Skull
kinda
Cannons. If you
confuses
have to
me.
run something, run Skull Cannons. At least you get scoring with that.
Mhm.
Don't do it, but if you must. Magus is in Gene Circle as well. I'm speaking directly to you, Tom. Do you think free strategies has been good for Arks, bad for Arks, or inconsequential? I
I think it's bad.
think it's bad. I like it, but I think it's too unlimited, and I really think there should be some more restrictions on it than there are. I don't like how much access there is to Turn 1 Strat Reserve now as well. Like Imperial Knights having access to it, 8-bound having access to it. I don't like drop pods really having it at the moment. I just don't think it's super great for the game.
I don't think Eradicators having it is good for the game either, because they can just
No,
pop on and
exactly.
just
It's
paste
really funny
things.
walking a unit of heavy melter rifles on the board and being like, that thing.
Yeah, no. I think you should probably be restricted on it to like. I don't even know how to restrict it. Like
They could just have cut
quarter
the
of your
cost.
army, like 2 units.
Yeah, they
cut
could have
CP
cut the cost in half.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like make
they
it
could have.
0 to 19 is 1 CP, or I think free is too much. I get why they've done it. It definitely deprioritizes Alpha Strike a little bit for some armies, but there is. It kind of feels like a balancing lever was kind of removed. I played against an Orc army that was just okay. So I'm going to chuck 12 units in stuff in Deep Strike. They're going to all try and hit an unnatural rollable charge on you, and it like doesn't feel like there's great counterplay to that. I get that there is, but it's super frustrating to just have stuff show up for no recourse and just blam you. Iron Hands being probably one of the biggest abusers of it. I think Sister's going to abuse it really well as well. Yeah, I'm not broadly a huge fan.
I think Ashley Thompson.
Yeah, I
makes a
think
good
Ashley's
point
done a
in our
really good
chat,
point there.
which is that unfortunately, free strategic reserves is really important for protecting your units from the crazy Arks of Omen shooting, but that shooty units are the ones who benefit the most from it. I think that's definitely true, because you can like it protects those things like knights or big models like Mortarion and stuff like that, or it can protect other units from being shot off the board right away because terrain is unevenly distributed across events. But things like Eradicators and other stuff coming off from strategic reserves can just pick apart your opponent's army, because it's really hard to screen out a 3-model unit.
This really seems like more of an indictment of crazy Arks of Omen shooting than it is of Strat Reserve. I think if you toned down Strat Reserve across the board, but also toned down shooting across the board, we'd be in a much healthier place. Like if it was,
Definitely.
you can put for every 3 units you deploy on the board, like actually on the board, you could put 1 in Strat Reserve for free or something like that. And then anything else you paid for, whatever. Like I don't really care what the method. Just make it so there's a restriction. I would even be going as far as like if you don't pay CP for it, it can't shoot or charge the turn it comes in. Just something to limit it. I don't know how. Like I don't think that is a particularly good balance. It's literally just spitballing ideas, but it's too good right now. I think coming from like 7th edition where free strat reserve was free, but you had to turn 2 you had to roll a 3 up or 4 up for it to come in. Turn 3 you had to roll a 3 up for to come in, and then turn 4 it came in automatically. Like that was a genuine. Like there was a downside to putting stuff in reserve. You often wanted to leave stuff in reserve for longer, so you would, run abilities that you re-roll that to try and keep stuff in reserve for longer, or -1s to your opponents, -1s to your own. Like just a bunch of ways to try and stop your stuff coming in, so you could have it coming in later and later. The full free control of it, I just don't really like it. And that was for everything. That was for everything from drop pods, which like half of them rounded up came down turn 1 instead of all of them. I just think reserve mechanics have steadily gotten more powerful through the course of Arks, and I think it's probably gone too far. Like I think this is just a bridge past where it also makes things like GSC feel less special, which I get isn't, like I'm not complaining from the behalf of Gene Circle, it's balanced, but from a thematic standpoint, it makes things like drop pods and teleport strike and all these things just feel less important to the game, right? Whereas before, if you wanted a deep strike rule, you had to pay for it, you had to pay CP for it. It's like, am I really going to pay 1 CP to deep strike a unit when I could just put the strat reserve for free and get 90% of the benefit, but I also can't be screened out on my board edge? Probably not. And I think you kind of lose something a little special with that. So I broadly don't like it. I get it from the standpoint of they cut CP so dramatically in Arks of Omen, but I don't know. It feels like a solution looking for a problem, where the actual problem was to just increase CP in the game again, give us our first World Trade and Relic free, and then you probably didn't need to make this change.
Right. I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Next question.
This is the Innes rants about things he doesn't like episode, I think.
That's every episode in this.
That's
every
true, but-
episode in our catalog of episodes. All the way back through Fight Club, it's still about what grinds Innes's gears, bud.
He usually has a point, though. That's the thing. It's not
I
just
know,
like
if only I was
arbitrarily
wrong more.
grinding his gears.
Sometimes there's a point.
Sometimes I'm just talking crap.
I did say most of the time.
Now that AOC is gone and Marines are fine, how do you fix the other AR Marines that are the dumpster?
Marines are not fine for one.
Marines
are
are whatever
broken.
the opposite. Marines are benefiting from everybody else losing AOC more than they're suffering from losing it, because Marines still just died anyway, with the exception of Blood Angels, who kind of suck now. I don't know. I think Keystons are okay. I think Keystons will come out of this fine once people realize that the army's not just terrible anymore.
Yeah, there were a whole 2 T-Suns players this weekend, but they managed a 55% win
Exactly.
rate. So.
T-Suns have had the classic "we've just been nerfed, overreact" response.
Give them a few weeks and see where they come up with. I'm sure that book has something left in it.
Yeah, I still think 20 Terminators is a real list. I think it's really solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of mileage in like 12 Skulls of Rubrics with Soul Reapers. People just need to grow up a little bit and realize that they're not to throw the toys at the pram just because you lost Flamers. Death Guard just need a rewrite, to be honest. They are a horde army now, which the only real way to make them better is to keep making them hordier, like drop the Plague Marines to 16 points or 17 points. It's just like, God, you eventually hit a critical mass where that army is just broken. Like, there is not going to be an inflection point where that army is fun ever, with the current style of you just run Plague Marines. I think that book just fundamentally needs a rewrite. Honestly, just get rid of the -1 damage, give it a feel of pain back. And I think we'd be fine. All the excuses that people came up with, it's faster, do not apply. There is too much stuff in the game with the feel of pain again for that to be a reasonable response.
Do you want to do the next question?
Sisters, I think, are fine. Sister players just need to grow up a little bit again. Vanilla, what are you doing in the Art War Death Guard Discord channel? Well, Anthony is not here to defend himself, so I'm going to say he's decided to commit full time to playing Death Guard for all of the rest of Arks of Omen. He's going to be playing it for WTC, and if anybody says otherwise, he's actually lying to you to try and gaslight you. And it's very important that everybody at tournaments goes up to him and asks him his opinion, starting with the phrase, "Hi, Anthony, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about Death Guard." And he won't tell you anything, but that's because he's hiding his secrets for WTC, because Team America is notably very secret. So that's why he was in the Death Guard channel. He slipped.
It's true, though. We've got an entire Death Guard army at the store waiting for him when he comes to all his dust.
Exactly. He's playing Death Guard all his dust, but he's going to lie on his West Coast barracks. He's clear with the TOs and he's going to say World Eaters, but he actually thinks Death Guard are the best army in the game right now. Secret. Their possessors are stronger. They get play weapons.
To provide less sassy advice about Sisters real quick, I think it's just that you'll have to change your builds a little bit. And secondaries...
Just abuse Strat Reserve to the ever-living feck.
Yeah, just put all your Retributors into strategic reserves and then come in that way and then deep strike all of your other nonsense and just do that. Do strat reserves for everything. Just make 9-inch charges with miracle dice that you have.
Just throw Repentia at things again. Sisters players, I feel like I stopped seeing 27 Repentia or 30 Repentia a while back. Just do that again.
It did get a little bit more expensive, but you can still do that because AOC is also gone, which means your AP4 actually just run
the Invul Turnoff and the Mortal Wounds thing so you can kill Custodes and come on, it's just imagine how fun that would be, just chucking a squad of 10 fully buffed Zephyrim with the Invul Turnoff into a squad of 10 Wardens.
And then they turn off rerolls and you go,
and you're fine, 6 of 10 auto wound, bro, and then they just explode anyway. It's come on, you just spent 4 CP on that and I just killed you anyway.
Change it from a secondary farming army to a go out and murder things army.
Yeah, exactly.
In the great advice of Day 9, just kill it.
Just kill it, bro. Favorite Valentine's candy?
They're all terrible.
Thank you.
The little chalk hearts.
Do you like the Arks meta?
Not particularly.
It's different. I can't say it's necessarily better than Nephilim, though.
I think Nephilim with like the balanced data slate without the Arks points changes and detachment would have been a much better game.
I think
I think keep the
Arcs-
detachment, but not the points.
I don't like the detachment.
It's funny because I think the
I think the
detachment's the
detachment
worst.
homogenizes lists significantly.
It's fair. I like the
I think-
flexibility of being able to like actually run things like a single Vanguard or what is a Vanguard now, but still have like 3 HQs.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it, but it also feels like there is no reason to run troops unless they're the exact best thing in slot now. And I feel like troops going away is detrimental for the look and feel of the game of 40k. Some armies will still play troops because OPSEC is still important, but broadly the impact of them has been removed. Like custodes, for example, you do not see any custodes in a custode army now. You maybe see a Scottish Shield guys. Like that's it.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I think it's just
don't really
permitted.
like that.
It's just permitted skew so much easier now. Like all of the skew that we used to complain about before has basically just been allowed. Like there are no penalties for doing it
List design in
anymore.
Arks reminds me of 7th edition. Is probably the best way to put it.
You're not wrong.
So whether you agree, whether you liked 7th or not, it's kind of up. It doesn't matter. But the list design theory of Arks of Omen is very much just let you do whatever you want, which was the 7th edition ethos. I don't think that's bad. I don't think it's good. I think it has impacts. And I don't think the impacts that are currently happening are positive for game health in general. I do think you get some really cool, interesting builds from it. Stargates at the table when they can't get for us and more expensive and drastically worse. Yeah, but you're playing sisters who are more expensive and drastically worse space marines. So, like, trade-offs. You got to take what you can get, right?
Next question.
Vanilla's been right. We're not answering an Anthony question for World
Obvious
Eaters because
reasons.
none of us really know that much. It's asking about running a Demon Prince. It seems fine, but I think more stuff better. You don't really need characters that heavily in that list. You also can't really buy world traits in that list, I don't think. So he doesn't get a lot of cool stuff.
You just get the one, right? Just the one warlord trait, one relic, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But you're locked into Involcus as one, right? So
That makes sense.
how do you analyze a list to figure out general strategy with it? E.g., what role each unit has in the larger game plan. Does somebody else want to start with this one? Because I'll rant about this for 45 minutes. So
I almost feel like this is an entire episode.
it is, but we can Cliff's Notes it.
We should save it for actually just making it part of the meta portion of the next episode, I think.
I think this is our meta discussion for next week.
Fine, but I'll Cliff Notes it, like 30 seconds.
I mean, because these
Right.
are Cliff's notes.
Exactly. How you analyze the list is you take your list and you look at your general game plan and you think, what secondaries do I usually take? And then from there, you decide, based on looking at your opponent's secondaries, whether you think you're going to win the game if nothing happens. If you are going to win the game if nothing happens, you try to maintain the status quo. If it's not, you try to break the status quo by going and killing them. Sometimes maintaining the status quo means going and killing them as well. That's all list by list. But that's how you analyze a unit's role. Is does it make you score points, or does it make your opponent score less points, or does it protect your points? That's kind of the only real things that you can do with a unit in the game. Killing your opponent's stuff, holding your points, stopping your opponent's points. Like pick a role for that unit. It'll vary game by game. Use it for that.
Next question.
I'm reading. The format Cliff has put this in, like my phone screen, the text is very tiny. I can't really see where questions starting in.
I can do it. I've got my computer open. And
That's
it's
fine. So 5-man teams, better to put first a shooting list that can pick a light table and hope to pull the opponent away, or traditional defender list that can keep it close on most on a dense table. Probably the shooting list right now.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to just kind of, I am Iron Hands, I am Dark Angels, you have no terrain and the objective's in the open. What's your plan? And say your opponent gives you 2 traditional defender lists and you 20 them. Feels real good right now. So I would say in 5-man teams, you probably want at least 2 lists that can do that, just depending on flexibility, because like Iron Hands will not have fun if you put Harlequins into them, and there's probably you can probably build like Dark Angels is not great for them, whereas Dark Angels maybe don't want. I don't think the Dark Angels Iron Hands matchup is super fun for Dark Angels, but that's been my experience.
It's a coin flip. It's painful.
Yeah, like, and then there's a bunch of coin flip matchups like Tau can be super rough for Iron Hands. Just with the jump because Iron Hands have a lot lower access, so you want to have 2 so you can make a pick and choose. Guard will be one of them. Your other one is kind of up to you. You should run guard, by the way. Everybody should run guard. And then after that, flexible scoring list that can score 95 to 100 points without really interacting with your opponent is what you want. I would run something like Orcs, Gene Circles, and Harlequins, along with a shooting marine list, whether that's Iron Hands or guard, or Iron Hands or Dark Angels, up to you. And guard is probably what I would run right now. And then flex in, like if you've got a really good Tau player, put Tau in one of the shooting lists. If you've got a really good World Eaters player, put that in over one of the defensive scoring lists. Like that's kind of where I'm looking at for 5-man teams right now. And then for 8-mans, I would expand that to three of the shooty, 4 of the scory, and 1 flex list.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then
It's
obviously,
also-
if you've got players around that, like work with your players, right?
It's also really nice to start your pairings with a 15 or an 18 or a guaranteed 20.
Yeah, it's real nice. How are you making your SOs feel appreciated this Valentine's Day? And so Innes has something to answer. Why are Primaris land speeders bad units? Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Innes makes his trophies feel special by polishing them nice and good tonight.
I
But
really do need to dust my trophy shelf. That's actually true.
there you go. You've got a plan now for your significant other today on this
20
Valentine's
to 1
Day.
at night. I'm definitely not polishing my trophy shelf at 20 to 1 at night. That's definitely a euphemism for something.
I bought my wife an espresso machine for Valentine's Day because that's a thing that you
Nice.
definitely should do to show them that they're appreciated. And then we're gonna watch Pixar movies after the show is over because that sounds like fun.
Oh, that's
Nice.
awesome. Yeah, I got her a nice tiramisu cake and some mousses, and we're going to hang out.
And I'm seeing Anthony on Saturday, so me and my missus are fine. And Primaris land speeders are bad units in Iron Hands because they degrade and they're not that fast and they're very expensive. So, like, you can run 2 land speeder tornadoes or one of those. I'd rather have 2 tornadoes that can just be more places, hide easier, don't degrade. And then fast slots are tight, so you don't really want to run more than 3. And 210 points for 3 tornadoes is just much better. Maybe 2.
Do you not just run the Landspeeder's chonky cousin, the Gladiator?
Yeah, also, a Gladiator's like 15 more points than 1, so just run one of those.
Yep.
It's absurd. Just strat reserve it. It'll be fine.
I think it's T8 for some god reason.
For fun.
I don't know why what this question from Prez is, but it. What?
We can't answer that question without showing it.
I
There's a bunch of
don't
math
understand what the
involved.
question is.
So basically, the question is, so this was to describe what we're looking at right now is how you, it's a topological problem. Yeah, there we go on this.
Optimal known packing for 17 identically sized squares in a space, or is it the smallest space you can? I don't know.
It's basically a packing problem. It's geometry at its finest. It's something. It's the question. It's the usual question of like, how many grots can I fit in a hammer and anvil deployment zone?
And the answer is I don't care. Just put your models down and let's start.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but like, it's more.
Bases aren't squares, guys. They're circles. Like I'm pretty sure we've known the packing for circles for a while, and the packing for circles is as many as you can cram into your deployment zone. I know, guys. Hot takes here on stat check. Circles aren't squares. I already solved it. I already solved this problem at WTC 2018 with Gene Stealers.
That's the number of circles you can fit in a square. That's
right,
actually
my
it's what you
Twitter
call a
for
group
5
of gene
years.
stealers is the maximum number you can pack into a square.
All right, serious question for Innes. Since coaching, what is the hardest lesson you've had to teach your clients?
My PayPal address. What? That was weird. Americans don't use PayPal. Like for a bunch of them, it's been actually a kind of a pain point. Hardest lesson. Probably that the army that you want to play isn't as good as the one you're currently playing, and you probably shouldn't swap. A lot of people are very quick to just be like, I should change army. And I'm like, should you though? And encouraging people to experiment with changes to their list without changing their list is an interesting challenge. I'm going to put it that way. But all my clients have been super great. I don't think I've had anybody that I've had like issues with on that front of just being like, I get that you want to try this. Let's maybe try this instead, or we'll try tweaking your current list rather than full set. Like, so I have like one guy who's a custodes client who was like, maybe I should swap the World Eaters. And I'm like, maybe you should try playing World Eaters before you talk about swapping to them, and we'll keep the custodes like as a thing you're playing right now, and like play custode, like go and play a game against World Eaters, see if it looks like a style you're going to enjoy, and then we can talk about it from there. And he came back and was like, not sure. So that's been like, there's been a lot of little stuff like that, but it's not been anything super. Everyone's been great. I've been really enjoying it. And if you want to hear more from that, you could check out stat-check.com/coaching. You could reach out to me and or Typhus and get access to our wonderful brains in a much more direct and useful fashion.
Yep.
Chill, over. Tim the Sorcerer says he complimented me about how much happier and how much more energy I seem to have. That's just because I woke up at like 2 p.m. today. It's been great. I'm like I said this before the show. I'm catching up on sleep I didn't know I'd missed. I think I'm still catching up on sleep from when I was working at Tesco a year ago. So
Jesus.
it's been nice. Yeah, no, I know. I keep like waking up for a 10 a.m. coaching call and going back to bed for 3 hours afterwards.
Innes is
like-
stealing all my sleep is what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What's the best advice you can give someone attending their first full team event?
Listen to your captain, Paul. That's me. I'm his captain.
In all honesty, yes. Listen to your captain, but also give your captain honest feedback.
Yeah, and get really, really comfortable with me asking you how your game's going, even when you don't want me to ask how your game's going.
Be forthcoming. If your game's going tits up, they need to know so that you can tell the others to push.
Also, Paul, you did a full team event. You came and played 4s with us. Like 8s is not that much different, bro.
Yeah. Just
It's funny because I want to really try a team event. So this is kind of interesting advice to me as a person who has never played one.
All right. So when you're going to a team event, the first thing to remember is that your game is part of a wider ecosystem. What that means is it's often more important that you get the expectation that you've given your captain before the round than it is that you get a better result. So if you come to me at the start of the round, you tell me that you're going to get 8, and it's very comfortable that you're going to get 8 points, like out of a 20 in a 20 system. So that means you're going to lose by roughly 10 to 15 points. And you come back to me and you're like, dude, I think I can go for the super risky play. I might get a 12. I might win the game. But if it backfires, I'm going to get like a 5. So that would be losing by a lot more or winning by a little bit. That's kind of the swing there. It's usually in a singles play, you would always take that second play unless you're, you're really, really playing like you want to go. You're on the top table. It's a really low percentage play, and you want to finish second instead of third. Maybe you take the safe play. You just bank the points. You probably shouldn't. You should go for it. Try and win events. It's more fun. It's more important to me that you get your 8 points than it is that you risk for the 12. So, but it might not be in context. So it's always important to have that dialogue with your team and to just make sure that your captain and your coach are on top of what the current game state is, what your expectation is. In order to do that, what you need to get really good at for team events, when there are stakes, like if you're just playing like your local team event where you and your 4 mates are there for fun, this isn't super important because at the end of the day, you're probably mostly just playing 5 singles games with a bit of a pairing process to determine who's playing each other and submit your own choice. When you're playing it for stakes, I'm going to use that in the loosest sense possible. But when you're playing for playing for Team Scotland or for Team America or whatever, and there's a reasonable degree of investment and people want to win, and you are putting in a lot more effort than is traditional for a 40K event to win. The thing that you really need to be good at team events is evaluating a game state and giving an accurate response of what you think the score is going to be at the end of the game and what you can do to change that and how risky it is to make those changes. So you might go into a game state and it's, you feel like you're winning, and then you look down at the score sheet and you're down 40 points, but you're super hard on the board and you've killed all their stuff. Does not matter. We had one round, 2016, I think it was. We lost to Germany by 1 point. And our Necron player for the entire tournament was like, I'm winning this game. And then our coach goes up to him and goes, name it. Could you tell me what the score is right now? And looks down and he's getting 20-0. And he's like, oh, I'm hardcore losing if I don't table this guy. And the game ends on 5 and he gets 0. And we lost by a point. And it's like, maybe you could have told us that a little bit earlier so that we could have told someone else to try and push for a couple of points, because we had this down as a 20, which if you don't know anything about WTC, if you score 74 points, you lose the round. If you score 75 points, you draw the round all the way up to 85 points. That's out of 160. If we had scored 94, that's a round win with a comfortable margin of 9 points. If that guy had gotten a 10-10, we'd have drawn the round and been 2 points off a win. Getting 0 in that game when the expectation is that you're on a 20, you've probably told everybody else to take a safe score and you just, bank in your points. Like we've got a 20 coming from that game. We've got, a 15 from that game. We've got a 10 from that game, right? Like we're on for 90. We're on for, expectation is, if we're being conservative, we're on for like 87 points here. We're going to play it safe. Like we think we're on for it. We're going to get a loss at best. And then you come in and you've told your captain you're getting 20 and you don't, like you have lost that round for your team in a very real sense. Ashley asks, never play these weird IRL team events where the games play at the same time. It's standard for the coach to run between games and tell everybody during the games what to aim for. Yeah, so the standard is weird IRL team events. I know it makes me laugh. Yes, the standard is that during the game, there will be a coach and the captain who can speak to you during your game to ask you how is the game going? What do you think you're on for? Is there anything you can do to increase that? What's the risk of that? That kind of thing. You can't directly influence the game. You can't be like, I think you should go for this play because it will result in more points. They can't ask you for advice, but what they can ask for is direction. It's a super demanding role. Having a good coach is one of the things that will make your team significantly stronger at WTC level. Information and knowing about that is one of the things that is the most. It just makes a big difference. So interacting with your coach well, Paul, is probably the thing. Just get used to speaking to Nick. And I know Paul's asked this question because we asked him to work for us at Home Nations this week or next month. So Paul will be representing Scotland for the first time. So congratulations, Paul. Thank you for stepping up because Matty decided to have his mum's 60th birthday or something. I don't know. crap excuse.
But yes.
So yeah. That's my brief notes, and then the other one is drop me a message or call me or speak to your other teammates because there's plenty of people who've done what you're doing and been through what you're going through. Who can help?
But yeah, I want to add just a little bit, Ashley. I walked a marathon during the WTC for Team Canada because it was over 3 days. I walked, I think it was something like 45 kilometers, just going up and down the rows, checking every single battle round, updating our notes and being like, all right, we're on track for what we predicted, or we're 10 points behind. You guys need to find something.
Yeah,
and every now and then I'd have someone run up to me and say, I've got an idea. It's going to be risky. But I think I can get us an extra 5 points. And I needed to have all of the information from everyone else to make that decision of, yeah, you can go for that, or you need to go for that, or no, stay. It's a hell of an experience. All of the games being played at the same time is real interesting. It is a very different dynamic than the online team format where games get played over the course of a week.
Yeah. In the online team format, you usually have a lot more, like if you're an early game versus a late game, you get a lot more knowledge about how to play the game. And a lot of the time, games stop mattering in team events towards the later rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know where our scrim is at right now, Curie. I genuinely couldn't tell you.
We crushed you guys.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have games left to play.
It's
actually have no idea. But yeah, I knew we got dumpster, but I didn't know if it was over.
Yeah, your game was the last one to be played.
Oh, was it? Cool. Nobody's posted results. There's no results anywhere in that chat.
I know.
So.
I'm on it. I'll get there eventually.
Cool. So yeah, you often end to the point where it's like, so I didn't even have to play. I could have gone to bed. God's sake. I think
the last question is the most important question as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
so we're gonna bounce on from that. I have more to say, but I'm gonna cut my losses. Sam asks, "What is it about 40k or Warhammer that brings you joy?" And it's this. It's the ultimate. It's the community and the people. Playing the game is fine. It's a vector to express skill and to win some trophies and look cool. It's at this point a way to make an income, which is super awesome as well. But it's the people in the community. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy. I wouldn't have been on now 3 podcasts over 10 years if it wasn't for the fact that I enjoy speaking to people about 40k and talking to people about 40k and traveling for 40k.
I agree that it's the community. I will give like a slight signal boost also to like the hobby aspect of it, but the community is definitely the number one thing that I draw the most satisfaction out of. Like coming on the podcast today was going to be a struggle. Like I worked 68 hours last week. But the reason I came on was because I knew that I would get to spend time with my co-hosts, and I enjoy spending time with my co-hosts. Meeting my co-hosts and other people at LVO was amazing, and every time I get to meet people in person and talk about this game is great. So, like, the community is definitely the thing that draws me out exhausted to talk to people on weekends and host events and run events and judge events and talking about the game and being passionate about it, or yelling at Taylor in our lore chat is always kind of amusing, or just stirring the pot in there to get him to come out and yell and shout at the sky.
I don't get up at 4 a.m. to travel for anything else.
Yeah. Definitely not. Yeah.
Fred asks, is it where we put Anthony's tattoo money? Yeah, sure. We can go with that. That's
one of us will get a tattoo with it. Sure.
Yeah. And then Jamara says he's going to have to watch this 3 more times just to pick up what Innes has said. He talks so fast. I can't. I genuinely, I've been advised to try and stop. I can't. I don't understand what it is. It is unfortunately part of the package deal. I just, it's the speed I go at. Unfortunately, I go at the speed of my excitement. Sorry.
In
You
it,
could
in
be
his
RVD who watches me on 2x speed, and I can't do that. So
Innes is definitely one of those people who, if I wasn't used to listening to him all the time, like prattle on about 40K, that I would never have understood like a single thing that came out of his mouth. But I've gotten used to Innes talking at near Adam Camilleri speeds. Like if we get Adam Camilleri and Innes on an episode at the same time, I think the world will die because
have you
nobody will
listened to my
understand
episode
it.
of Our War Down Under with Adam?
I have
It's
not.
me and Adam speaking at about 1,000,000 miles an hour, and Dustin just like very slowly talking. It's great.
Okay, I want to answer one more question just because the person's name is like the 90s edgelord name and it makes me so happy. XZX player XZX. The Votan win rate was like 46.1% over the weekend.
Yep. I will say that of that, I think they had 2 top 4s, and one of them won best overall at Stutter Snotling. Diogo did.
I don't talk that fast when I'm just talking. When I get animated, I do talk that fast. That is
Yes.
the broad strokes. My
Mhm.
usual speaking is speedy but not fast. But yeah, my blah, 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 is can be different, and I accept that, and I can't change that. So
Do you
I
wanna-
think
Do you want to
that
give
is
us
gonna
the
wrap
plugs?
us up. Yeah, so thank you to everybody who's been listening to us for the last hour and 50 minutes at this point. Or we're getting back to the 2-hour Fight Club shows, and it's my fault, I think. I said that we didn't have a stop time anymore, and it's gonna creep. So thank you everybody for being with us. We did the post earlier in the show, but I will very briefly touch on them again. If you could drop us a like, a comment, or subscription on YouTube, that would be super appreciated. The same with doing anything to support us outside of that. So if you want to support us more, you can check us out at stat-check.com. That's our website. You can also see things like our coaching, the meta dashboard, CRS and ELO, which should be getting updated soon. I don't want to speak for Jeremy and Cliff, but they will be updated for the last 2 weeks, I think, because we're up to the 3rd on them. Or at least that's what the website says. Don't quote me.
It'll be updated tonight.
So it'll be updated tonight. You can also check out the coaching there. Otherwise, if you want to support us directly, you can check out patreon.com/statcheck, where for $5 a month, you can get access to our wonderful Discord community. We are up to like 180 people in there now. It's a super good community. Everybody's super supportive, super wholesome. You'll be the first to find out anything that happens statcheck wise. You will occasionally get to vote on things. You'll usually get previews of anything new that's coming out for us. And you get the opportunity to ask questions that we'll definitely answer on the show.
We're going to
And
be
at some
running a
point-
TT. We're going to run a TTS league starting soon. So if you get into the Patreon soon, you can join that because I'm going to organize it this weekend.
And
put out
Nathan
invites
has
for it.
promised at some point to host a SpongeBob movie marathon watching night.
Yeah, I'm just going to
for
let you know that
$150.
it will happen as soon as I can coordinate 7 people's schedules together. Typhus has said that he will join at like 3 a.m. and will watch it with us. So we'll all drink and watch SpongeBob. And in the case of Typhus, he'll drink and his coffee and watch SpongeBob, I guess. I don't know.
So yeah, that should be happening in the next couple of weeks because that was meant to be a reward for 150, but we had obviously LVO and a bunch of other stuff in between there, and we've had a decent explosion in patrons with things like X1 going live. So yeah, that's a great. Other than that, thank you to Goonhammer for sponsoring the whole thing. This will also be available on the Goonhammer website. So if you see it there, chuck a like on it, chuck a view on it. It's super appreciated. It just lets them know that we've got people that are there for Goonhammer. And I think that's about it. Is there anything else I've forgotten? Somebody will remember something I've forgotten. It's fine. Thank you, everybody. We super appreciate all of you. We will be back for episode 32 next week with, I think we're having TJ on next week. Should we soft drop that?
Yeah,
we're going to be inviting TJ on the show. He's meant to be coming on. We should be having TJ Lanigan on to talk all things chaos, probably. It's TJ.
Yeah, all things chaos for sure.
He's the only person that talks about himself more than I do, so we'll have a great show. But TJ's been repping us in events, and he's a good friend of Anthony's. He was on the Chaos Demons release episode where we are release preview stuff.
Yeah,
They did much
Breaking
talk about
Chaos
that.
Demons.
Yeah. I forgot Brian. I could never forget you, Brian. Brian, you need to respond to my message. I'm going to use the show as a platform. Respond to the message I sent you, please, for the love of God, because I really need to know. We will catch you all in a week's time, and have a good one.
Bye-bye.
And bro.